Part 270. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2702. As for the outside world, he still blocked the sound. After all, this place is also a place where the power of a country is concentrated. It really cost them a lot of face. Maybe the people's hearts are in chaos. Even if the country returns to the Black Temple as the mainstay, it will be difficult to recover quickly. Vitality. This is not the place for you to be arrogant. Among the guards, there was a commander-level master who rushed out like a shadow, holding a long sword and stabbed Jia Yan. He actually used the method of cultivating immortals. When he drew his sword, the sword light danced, which was quite beautiful. But in the face of the absolute difference in strength, any means are just fancy. Jia Yan twisted his fingertips and flicked the tip of his sword. Sparks burst out, causing the sword to bounce back. The commander was bleeding from his mouth and fell straight back, sustaining serious injuries. All the guarding soldiers were shocked. Their leader was not weak. In other words, he could even serve as a high-ranking official in the army, because he had a mid-level cultivation level in the galaxy, which was close to the strength of the top masters in the capital city. But he was still easily defeated by the young man. The difference in strength was too obvious. Stop resisting fearlessly. You are no match for me. In other words, do you want to see this country's capital reduced to ashes? If you don't come out, I won't have any scruples. Jia Yan put his hands behind his back and scolded the people around him calmly, as if he was not in a hurry. His posture made it clear that even if he was in the center of the encirclement, he didn't have any worries at all. Either you are confident or you are bold. Inside a nearby villa, there was a white-haired old man with a lifeless look on his face. He felt the young man's momentum, finally sighed, stood up, and walked tremblingly outside. After a while, no one else around him dared to show up, but the old man stood on his walking stick, walked out of the villa, and walked towards the road where the young man was. The sound of the cane was not loud, but the clattering sound soon caused the two sides in the confrontation to hear it and raise their eyes to look. Jia Yan actually knew that the old man was moving, but he didn't expect that he was really coming here. This old man is quite responsible. He is almost dying of old age, is he still willing to take the blame? Jia Yan looked at the old man and felt that he seemed like a righteous man who died generously to save the lives of others, and he knew the purpose of this old man's coming here. I have seen this powerful gentleman. I dare to ask, sir, but is he from the Black Temple? The old man did not look down upon Jia Yan's appearance, because everyone knew that the appearance of a strong man was incalculable. Maybe the other person's youthful appearance could hide hundreds or even thousands of years of age. Jia Yan didn't respond directly to this person, he just looked at him indifferently and then smiled. Are you here to take the blame for a bunch of people who are responsible for these things? The life of a dying person is not enough. When these words came out, they immediately stirred up waves. These words are not just Jia Yan's attitude, but also illustrate many problems. One is that he has confirmed his identity as a powerful person in the Xinhe Temple. He is here to settle the matter, and he may even kill a lot of people. In addition, it also shows that since Jia Yan dares to admit his identity in a big way, he will not be afraid of any Xinbei temple's targeting, indicating that his strength may be far more than what he shows. The old man's heart was filled with turmoil, and he frowned. He knew that he had guessed correctly, and the strong young man in front of him was not afraid of being guessed by him. He must be confident. Isn't my life not enough? The old man trembled, looking a little exhausted. He laughed to himself and nodded. He knew that people could tell at a glance that he was going to die soon. Even if he had a glorious past and a lofty status, it was simply impossible to exchange his current lifespan for a peaceful solution to the incident. Then let the other generals in our army come out to save their lives, but, this Lord of Xinhe Temple, you must show the ability to let us take orders. The strong ones in our army all respect the masters. Jia Yan understood what he meant. The so-called respect for the master was because he wanted to see Jia Yan's greater strength, otherwise they would not be able to capture him without mercy. No one is willing to throw away his life easily, and this is not the way to take the blame. Without knowing Jia Yan's ability, who is willing to let his superior self die? Oh? Do you want to know my abilities? Haha, that's okay. In addition, I also have a request, that is, a few more generals in the army. No, we need a few more people. The roots of this country are rotten. I will bring order to the chaos. A large number of rotten roots must be eradicated, otherwise it will not be cured. The old man fell into deep silence and looked at Jia Yan carefully, knowing that the strong young man in front of him was probably not the kind of person who would speak out loudly. I can't make the decision on this matter, that's all. They probably won't come to discuss it with you. Anyway, if you can show more, I guess no one can stop you from whatever you want to do. Jia Yan nodded and looked at a certain location in the capital. Under the gaze of the bowing old man, the figure gradually disappeared. The old man was originally bursting with momentum, gradually letting his old body enter the peak period of explosion of strength, but to his surprise, Jia Yan did not make a move to him, but disappeared by himself. Jia Yan's words were left in the air, if you want to see more, you don't have to risk your own life. I have better candidates here. After finishing speaking, a sudden explosion sounded from somewhere in the capital. A high-rise building collapsed, and two figures chased each other out. The one who escaped was a person with a strange aura, but his aura was like an abyss. He was so terrifying that he was close to the level of a venerable. Moreover, he was wearing a snow-white robe, and he was actually a strong man from the Xinbei temple. The pursuer is naturally Jia Yan. The hunted person was hysterical, with both fear and a bit of sternness in his eyes. Masters from the Black Temple, I believe the White Temple has not attacked you. Do you want to cause a war? This man was shocked. Because of his strength, this young strong man came to his side, and he barely reacted. As one of the masters from the Xinbei Temple who came to this planet, he knew very well that the strongest master from the Xinbei Temple on the planet was only at the top of the starry sky, and there was a slight gap between him and himself, so he was originally quite confident. Unexpectedly, a master from the Xinbei Temple who was stronger than himself appeared to snipe him. He was so unlucky. Jia Yan chased after this person closely, holding his head high and still not seeming to use all his strength, indicating that he was definitely too far ahead of this half-step master. War? I am here this time just for the war. Guys from the Xinbei Temple, if you have any last words or information, please tell me directly. Don't wait until later. He did not directly kill this powerful man who was hiding in the capital of the country in the Xinbei Temple. He had two purposes. The first was to let the top leaders of the country see clearly his own strength, which of course was only part of it. Secondly, it was for information. Maybe he could get some information out of the mouth of the strong man from Xinbei Temple whom he had uncovered. He did not want to believe the information from the White Temple, but thought that he could use this information to deduce the recent course of action of the White Dolphins. The half-step master in Xinbei Temple was secretly frightened. He had tried his best to escape, but he still couldn't get rid of the powerful young man from Xinbei Temple in front of him. To him, this was like denying all his own strength. Venerable. Your Excellency is definitely a powerful person at the level of a venerable, right? Now that you have reached the invincible realm, why do you still have to fight against a weakling like me? Your temple and ours are still in a state of no war. If you kill me here, aren't you afraid of triggering a world war? Can you afford this crime? The masters of Xinbei Temple looked fierce and felt that they could still save something. Jia Yan didn't talk to him anymore. Since this person didn't tell him the information, it was useless and he should be dead. With a chirp, Jia Yan stretched out his hand. The strong man from Xinbei Temple was shocked, and a black palm appeared in the air. He slapped him like a mosquito and turned him into meat paste. Oh, we shouldn't describe it as swatting mosquitoes, because a certain mosquito cannot be killed with a slap, and it's almost enough to hit it with 2 stars. In an instant, the people from the Zudo hidden Shinbei temple who were watching in the city felt dumbfounded, and a premonition of some kind of catastrophe came to their minds. You know, they all know clearly that on this planet, there are several powerful people who protect the interests of Xinbei temple. These powerful people frequently intervene and solve many problems overtly or covertly. This is why many countries on the planet gradually moved towards the Xinbei temple. It can be said that a half-step master is an important cornerstone for the smooth progress of the Xinbei temple on this planet. Now, a half-step master has died. Depending on the situation, it seems that the young man can kill a few more, and his strength is unfathomable. Of course they shuddered. Those who had already hidden their identities immediately made Qiang Zhen's identity even more hidden. Those whose identities were exposed fled frantically and never struggled again. The strong is also a decisive force in this world. No matter how many tricks you use and your strategies change, you will still die under the overwhelming power of the strong. Puff. After a while, Jia Yan casually returned to the residential complex of the country's high-level officials. Shi Shiren looked at the old man who was halfway through his momentum, but was stuck there, not daring to explode again. Even if this old man explodes again, he will only reach the high level of the starry sky, because even when he was young and in his prime, he was only a strong man of the high level of the starry sky. Now, no matter how much he improves his strength regardless of the sequelae, he will not be as strong as the Xinbei temple powerhouse. Stronger. Jia Yan could easily kill even the powerful man from the Xinbei temple, so it should be easier to shoot him. So, my ability has been proven now, right? Is it worth more people dying? Under Jia Yan's indifferent question, the old man took a small step back, and his aura surged thousands of miles like a river bursting its embankment. He was panting, and his eyes were even cloudier, but because his power was dissipated, the goal of boosting his momentum, which was supposed to be fatal, turned into saving a small life. Mr. Strong, that's enough. Your ability is enough to make some people die, and it's enough to prevent some people from having to die. Among those who died, I am one of them, and my whole family is included. The white-haired old man said creepy words and actually wanted his whole family to die with him. Because he knew very well that he and his family had contributed to the massive invasion of Xinbei temple. If others were to die, their family would not be able to escape the blame. Wait a minute. Jia Yan suddenly stopped the communicator that the old man had taken out and said bluntly, "You don't have to die. I have probably understood your behavior. You are truly serving the country and the people. The enemy is too powerful and there is nothing you can do about it. This is the only choice, so you and your family don't have to die. Not only you, but as long as the investigation is clear, those who have no choice but to join in the crime will be spared. But after that, you must join the front line of the army. If you want to die, you will also be given. I will die on the battlefield. Do you agree to this condition?" The old man was stunned. The communicator he was holding could not be accessed for a long time. "Yes, your Majesty told me that if we don't die, we will not die, but will charge on the front line for your Majesty." The old man leaned over and bowed tremblingly. As for his old body, he did not say that he was no longer suitable for the front line. As a general, if he could die on the battlefield in the last days of his life, he would be considered a worthy death. Let alone make up for it after making a mistake. Very good, but those capitulation factions for their own selfish interests must be screened out by me. They are destined to die. If one of them is not found, I will kill one more of you. If a large number are not found, I will kill you all. Jia Yan was not all good at governance, but his words were full of murderous intent, which made the old man couldn't help but tremble slightly. Yes, I will take care of it now. You don't need to take action personally. Even if the matter involves the country's leaders, I can kill him. The old man did not let Jia Yan take action in person, because he was not sure whether he would be killed again if he took action in person, and people who accidentally killed people would not care. At the same time that the white-haired old man left, Jia Yan shot a ball of black energy away indifferently. This energy entered the old man's body before he had time to react. Then he was astonished and felt that not only was his body not killed, but on the contrary a strange power arose, which combined with the black god power he had cultivated for many years, quickly stabilized the old diseases in his body, and even allowed him to take a step closer, and his body regained its second spring. Thank you for your kindness, sir. He clasped his fists with tears of gratitude and straightened his body a little straighter. Jia Yan waved his hand nonchalantly and made the old man retreat silently. The strength of the iron-blooded general seemed to be revealed. The female reporter watched the whole process with fear. At this time, the old man left. The guards around him seemed nervous but didn't know what to do. She couldn't help but feel uneasy. Stand up. Are you familiar with this capital? Jia Yan suddenly turned around and looked at the frightened female reporter. Ah, I'm familiar with you, I studied in college here. What can I do for you? The female reporter was startled. The address of the latest chapter of Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky. Read the full text of Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito at /read/1783/ Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito text download address. Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky mobile phone reading /read/1783/. For the convenience of reading next time, you can click collect below to record this reading record, chapter 2649, You Don't Have to Die. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe, and you can see it when you open the bookshelf next time. If you like Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky, please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2703. There's nothing wrong, it's just that the matter is done. Now we have to wait for the news. Since you are familiar with this place, take me to find a quiet place to stay. Yes, okay, I know some places that are quiet, but I don't know if you can live there. The female reporter suddenly felt that the place she found for the great master might be too low-end. You know, this young master could even kill the mysterious strong man from the Zinbei temple. She didn't know how to judge strength, but the speed at which the strong man was flying around just now was definitely not an ordinary Starry Sky level. As a reporter, she had met several Starry Sky level big shots, but she always felt that ordinary Starry Sky level people were not as good. The powerful people in Zinbei Temple are very powerful. Such a terrifying existence was still killed by the strong young man. She had never thought that Jia Yan was so strong before coming to the capital. She originally thought that Jia Yan might find evidence in a small rural town, and then go to the capital to meet up with the Zinhei temple here, and then get the evidence. Produce evidence against those high-level evidence collectors. Unexpectedly, he was a master who single-handedly attacked the high-rise residential areas of the capital and settled the matter. Don't be so nervous. I'm not a man-eating devil. Okay, take me to the place you mentioned. I should be able to calm down for a day or two. If they still need me to do something like this, it would be too cowardly. Yes, I'll take you there. The female reporter didn't know why Jia Yan didn't want others to arrange a better place to live, and even found a house to live in this high-end community, but he just had to take care of it himself, so he had no choice but to do as he wished. Jia Yan actually didn't think much about it, he just didn't want to get involved in these trivial matters anymore. Yes, in his opinion, this kind of thing is nothing more than a trivial matter. Even after today, he will ask the old man to take orders and lead a few military personnel who are still somewhat war-minded to travel around the planet's countries to suppress and let them deal with the people in the Zinbei temple. These are really small things, just make up for it. Jia Yanzhen didn't care at all about the white-haired old man's feelings for his family and country, as well as the dispute between the Xinhe and Zinbei temples. What he cared about was the advancement plan of the Baishan system behind him. Of course, failure to win this small battle may affect the war between the two gods behind it and the overall situation, otherwise he would not come. Now that we are here, we have to take them all. I didn't take the initiative to cause trouble, but they attacked the Xinhe temple's area of influence first. It's okay, I was worried that I had no excuse to take action, and a strong man suddenly appeared. Maybe the white dolphins and the others would guess something. In this case, if I am stronger, I may not attract their attention. Jia Yan followed the female reporter to the quiet residence she met. It was a relatively remote small hotel. It was not expensive, but it was located in the suburbs, far away from the hustle and bustle of the capital, which made people feel calm. It also had a good hot spring bath. The previous pressure was greatly relieved. And the other end. The old man took action. With the help of Jia Yan, his old and precarious body changed from his old demeanor to the fierce general he was at his peak. There was a loud rumbling sound, and the old man who was leading the troops broke into a certain building. The people inside resisted, but they could not hold back for long, and the door was opened directly. Lao Bai. How did you? Don't be surprised. I am dissatisfied with what you and others are doing. We are compromising, but you are acting like a rat. Today, I will do justice for heaven. The white-haired old man had piercing eyes, his sword was like a dragon, and his strength actually gave a vague feeling of breakthrough. On this day, great commotion broke out on the entire planet. Countless people were surprised and looked at the country that was planning to be the first country to openly surrender to the Zinbei temple. Sure enough, things are not that simple. Xinhe temple itself is also a little confused. They are in the front line area between the Zinbei temple and the Xinhe temple. There has been turmoil on various planets recently, and they are still preparing to deal with it. However, the disposal plan has not yet been fully released. Several senior officials of the Xinhe temple here have even prepared to compromise and wait until the disposal plan is released, and then strike with a thunderous strike. Unexpectedly, the higher UPS have already sent strong men to come. How could they not know at all? The Xinhe temple is actually far behind the Zinbei temple and is basically cut off. The strength of the Xinhe temple in this area is completely impossible to compare with that of the Zinbei temple headquarters. Several battles with corpses littering the fields have made them extremely weak. Even if there are some venerable level masters, they are definitely treated as treasures. He would not take action easily because he was afraid that the Zinbei temple would catch him whereabouts and focus on trapping him. But in this incident, a top expert came to the front line area to show off his power. And you haven't made contact with the local Xinhe temple yet? The senior officials of Xinhe temple were confused one by one. After Jia Yan had dealt with the basic issues, they finally remembered that in order to contact this powerful man, they had to at least understand whether they were from Xinhe temple. High rise. They wanted to meet Jia Yan, but Jia Yan didn't have time to talk to them yet. Jia Yan was not very satisfied with the behavior of the senior officials of the Xinhe temple on this planet, so he gave up on the senior officials of the Xinhe temple who came to see him for a day. It wasn't until the next night that Jia Yan met one of them. I finally got to see your true face. As expected, you are really majestic. I don't know which temple in the back you came from. It seems that I have never seen you before. The person who met Jia Yan was said to be the chief god of the Xinhe temple on this planet. He seemed to be something like that. But from Jia Yan's perspective, This person was contaminated with too much dust. It doesn't look like a god who serves the gods at all. Jia Yan looked at this person calmly, and then didn't say much. Black color gradually bloomed on his body. The black color that seemed to be colorless actually gave rise to a feeling of constant panic, which stirred up a storm in the man's heart. God's envoy? No. God, are you a certain god from my black god department? This, our star field finally welcomes a god, great, great. This god lord was confused at first, and then overjoyed, even crying with joy. Jia Yan nodded secretly. This person's joy was not fake. It was obvious that he truly admired the black gods. That's right, in this world where the white god system occupies an absolute advantage, those who are still obsessed with the black god system should have a good faith. Not to mention that he has climbed to the top, and those who follow him must be he won't be blind. Whether he truly believes in the black god or falsely believes in the black god, everyone has a right shot in his heart. Okay, there's no need for this. I'm here to deal with the tense situation in this area. You can contact the senior people in the Starry Skies in Hay Temple to tell you the information about my arrival and calm down the military. Yes, the God Lord was so excited that he couldn't speak coherently. He didn't know what to say and didn't dare to raise his head. Under Jia Yan's instructions, he walked away directly. He really wanted to tell the truth about Jia Yan's arrival to his superiors and many old friends of Xinhai Temple right away. Belief is based on loyalty to the gods themselves. Although Jia Yan and the others have never manifested themselves as saints, their worship and imagination of black power have created the power of the Black Temple. However, without evidence, everything can easily go wrong. Question. For example, recently, there have been frequent rumors about the appearance of the true God in the Xinbei Temple, but the Black God department here is unremarkable and has not moved at all. There have been many reversals. Not only the people at the bottom are unstable, but also the clergy within the Black Temple are a little impetuous. Maybe there are only white gods in the world and no black gods at all? This idea is no longer a day old. Now that the true God of the White God series has appeared in the world, it is understandable that those with less faith in the Black Temple have similar thoughts. But all the hidden dangers and uneasiness disappeared today. A certain black god has also appeared as a saint. I don't know which god in the Black God series this god is, or in other words, the public has no impression of most of the gods in the Black God series, as if the Black God series is the only one in the Black God series. This was also the case with the White God system before, but today, with the gradual emergence of the White God department, several White God department gods have begun to come into the public eye, such as the female military god, the White God of War, and the White God's beautiful and supreme wife, Goddess Kun. People speculate that if the Black God system also exists, there will be a similar god system. Today, this strong young man appeared in front of the top officials of the Black Temple, confirming this speculation. He must be a side god in the Black God system, a god who assists the Black God. Sir, the senior executive of the Black Temple who left just now said in a hurry that you are one of the gods of the Black God system. Not long after, the female reporter came to Jia Yan anxiously, looked at him dumbfounded, and then quickly lowered her head, not daring to look directly. She was actually in a state of turmoil inside. She originally thought that this young man was a strong man, but then, she overturned the idea that he was just a strong man. This was a super strong young man, maybe even a high-level strong man in Xinhai Temple. Just now, she listened to the high-level officials of the Black Temple who were leaving the house talking incoherently, shouting true gods with her colleagues, and then she finally realized in shock that this might be a god from the Black Gods. That's right. Don't be nervous. I won't harm you. Jia Yan smiled indifferently, but the female reporter felt dizzy and felt like she was in a dream for a while. It turns out that I have been acting together with a god for so long. No wonder, This god was extremely sure from the beginning to the end, without any nervousness or fear, because he is a god. Everything seemed to be solved, and the doubts and difficult to understand areas suddenly became clear. If it is a god, of course there will be no fear, nor will there be any fear of Zinbei Temple, because he is a black god, an existence corresponding to the white god system that is the goal of Zinbei Temple's belief. I have met my god, and I am actually a loyal believer in Zinhei. I also ask my god not to care about his previous arrogance. Jia Yan shook his head indifferently and waved his hands to let the female reporter not be so nervous. Then he calmly sat down on the chair and said, "Don't care about my identity. I'm not here to show off my identity. About you, since you have been tainted by the dispute between me and the Zinbei Temple, it shouldn't be that easy to return to your original life in the future, so just serve in the military, maybe as a military reporter. What do you think of this?" "Yes, please obey my god's oracle." The female reporter retreated tremblingly, without the same magnanimity as at the beginning. After all, she is facing a god. Although this god seems approachable, gods and humans are different. No matter how friendly the god is to her, the identities, statuses, and life forms of both parties are completely different in the eyes of the female reporter. She was just a little curious as to which god this black god type god was. But even if they say it, I'm afraid they don't know it. In the eyes of the public, the black god family and even the white god family, until recently, there were only the white god and the black god. Although everyone knows that the god family naturally has other gods. But no one knows the names of other gods. But she probably never expected that this young man, who everyone believed that even if he was a god, he must be a sub-god, or a subordinate god, a close god companion next to black god, turned out to be black god himself. There is a god here. I believe that the momentum of the White Temple will be slowed down by it, right? Jia Yan smiled. He did not reveal his true identity, because saying that he is a black god is completely different from saying directly that he is a black god. If the White Dolphins and others only knew that a black god type god was coming here, they might judge that through the underworld passage, a soy sauce subordinate of Jia Yan came here. At most, it can only elevate this area to one of the war zones. But if they get the information and know that it is Jia Yan himself who is coming, then maybe even the White Dolphin himself will rush here in a hurry. After all, the Black God himself, Jia Yan, is different from his subordinates. A few hundred words are missing. You will be able to see it after refreshing the official version in an hour. Please come to Cheateon.com and subscribe to the official version. After all, she is facing a god. Although this god seems approachable, gods and humans are different. No matter how friendly the god is to her, the identities, statuses, and life forms of both parties are completely different from the perspective of the female reporter's things. She was just a little curious as to which god this black god type god was. But even if they say it, I'm afraid they don't know it. In the eyes of the public, the black god family and even the white god family, until recently, there were only the white god and the black god. Although everyone knows that the god family naturally has other gods. But no one knows the names of other gods. It's just that she probably never expected that this young man, who everyone believed that even if he was a god, must be a follower god, or a subordinate god, a close god companion to the black god, turned out to be the black god. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2704. The army is quite large in number, but it's one-sided here. Do you want me to take action myself and catch their vanguard army off guard? Jia Yan pondered the next course of action. In order to avoid being guessed about his identity, he still didn't want to be exposed prematurely, at least before Qingling seized the power of the astrological sphere, he didn't want to act prematurely. In this case, it is best not to attack the vanguard army, but in this case, how can the vanguard army stop it? After all, on this planet, I have just begun to take over the situation. The army cannot effectively unite and resist the opponent. Report: there was a strange movement in the Xinbei Temple army yesterday, but for some reason, the movement disappeared. While Jia Yan was still thinking about the Xinbei Temple offensive, in space, warships from several planets were frantically transmitting a certain message, which was unbelievable. Many senior officials of the Black Temple believed that they were hallucinating and quickly asked for the authenticity of the news. However, they were shocked to discover that the military intelligence reported by their subordinates was true. The fleet army pressed by the Xinbei Temple Alliance force actually got into chaos. What happened? Originally they didn't know the reason. It wasn't until some people reported the deeds of the mysterious Xinhei Temple strongmen on an advanced planet behind the front line that the entire Xinhei Temple Alliance army suddenly realized. Damn it, are the masters from the Black Temple attacking? But they didn't receive even the slightest notification. What's going on? Not only were the troops on the front line confused, Jia Yan, who received the news the next day, was also a little confused. The army subordinates sent by the old man thought it was Jia Yan's partner who took action, but where did Jia Yan's partner come from? No one will come at all except himself, okay. My Lord God. Seeing that Jia Yan didn't reply, the subordinate called out cautiously. I know about this matter. You don't need to ask about it. In short, continue to maintain the previous combat posture. I will see the rest in person. Yes. After receiving Jia Yan's reply, his subordinates retreated without any worries. With the help of gods, how could they not sit back and relax? Jia Yan, on the other hand, was a little surprised, with a strange look in his eyes. Could this master who suddenly attacked the Xinbei Temple army be a real strong man from the Xinbei Temple? Or is it another subordinate scattered here? There are all possibilities, but Jia Yan still believes that he needs to see it for himself and confirm the identity of the visitor. Otherwise, it is an enemy conspiracy and may cause bad things. Yes, let's take a look. If this matter is not solved, the nights will be long and we will have many dreams. Jia Yan nodded, tore open the space, and disappeared instantly. The female reporter, who was just about to come in to report some information, saw the scene and gasped, not daring to think too much before exiting the guest room. Yes, this person is really a god, he comes and goes without a trace. Jia Yan traveled through many spaces, but he never expected that his departure would be regarded as a miraculous reappearance by the female reporter. Even if you know, there won't be any emotional changes. As for going to the front line in person, there is no danger or anything to worry about. Now is far from the time for him to be cautious. If he flew over and found that the white dolphin was leading the people to wait in person, he would admit it and tear up the space to escape into the underworld. Moreover, if he could even plan his purposeless trip, then he, Jia Yan, would not be worthy of competing with the white dolphin. Strength: if this body dies, he will try his best to let his will withdraw from the world, return to his true body and escape. After all, there is such a big difference in IQ, and he is still a fart. Of course, the white dolphin is not a fortune teller, and it is impossible to predict that Jia Yan will come here in person. So when he reached the depths of the starry sky and followed the star map to the front line of the previous incident, there were no traps or anything like that. Well, sure enough, these battleships of Xinbei Temple were attacked. Looking at the torn warships in the starry sky and the heavy casualties of the Xinbei Temple coalition forces, Jia Yan smacked his chin, his face changed a few times, and he was a little confused. He felt some power and was surprised for a moment. The remnants of this power really looked like his look energy, but the attacker seemed to have thought of hiding his figure and erasing the remaining power, making it impossible to tell who it belonged to. It's about the venerable level, less than half a star level. In other words, it may be a strong man in the local world, or it may be one of my subordinates, but one thing is for sure, he or they, use the power is a very pure black power. Even if I clean up the traces, I can still feel the purity of the remaining energy. After all, Jia Yan is also the true master of black energy. Although the person who took action destroyed all traces of the energy, he can also fill in the gaps and analyze something. Jia Yan took a closer look and even doubted whether someone familiar to him had committed the crime, but after thinking about it, he restrained his thoughts. Probably not, no one told me. Forget it, let's just treat this as an interlude, and it just served my purpose of hiding my identity. After such a fuss, the Zinbei temple will also come to the conclusion that my strength is only around the peak of the venerable. The mysterious strong man's action did bring some benefits to Jia Yan. Moreover, the person who made the move used very pure black energy and was definitely a friend rather than an enemy. His identity is unknown now, but he should be able to meet him later. After he finished reading, he stepped back with a faint smile and merged into the starry sky. In this way, it would be more convenient for him. Eat, 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 it's so fun. In the dark depths of the underworld, two little kids tore open the underworld space and got out through a small door. The 5 or 6-year-old girl giggled non-stop, as if she had encountered something that made her laugh. On the other hand, the 12 or 13-year-old girl next to her looked a little ugly, trembling, and panicked. You're still laughing. I'm scared to death. You said you were running away from home, but I didn't expect to get through the door of the present world. Moreover, when I walked out, I was facing the battleship of Zinbei Temple. I was almost surrounded by them. How scary. Adisha covered her mouth, still smiling wildly. Jia Lin turned pale and gouged out Adisha's eyes. She was speechless. Adisa looked as naughty as she was. In fact, sometimes, Jia Lin couldn't understand Adisa's brain circuit. Don't laugh when you should laugh, and keep laughing at things that are not funny. After laughing for a long time, Adisha's eyes became watery, and the sparkle of wisdom emerged. Adisha went there last time to play. There shouldn't be any troops from the Zinbei temple there. Humph, something must have happened over there. How about we go over there in the next few days and help the people over there? Aditha speaks righteously and helps the troops within the Black Temple's sphere of influence. This is their mission. Otherwise, if they don't help here or there, the Zinhei Temple is not very powerful and will be defeated after a while. Ah! Is that the Zinhei Temple's sphere of influence? Then, that's fine, but I can't beat anyone, so you will be the main force. Jia Lin said she was timid, but sometimes she was quite courageous. After some hesitation, the two naughty boys decided on a strategy to harass the enemy. And the main person who decided on the tactics was still Adisha. You must know that she was unparalleled in wisdom and her battle planning ability was terrifying. Even though there were only 2 little kids who had run away from home, the execution efficiency of this strategy was surprisingly terrifying. Of course, due to the sudden incident, they were unable to learn more about the information there. They didn't know that they had run away from home in the underworld, but by some strange combination of circumstances, they still ran into Jia Yan's arms. If she knew, Adisha would probably have to retreat into the underworld and not dare to go out. Although Jia Yan is the so-called black god of creation, he cannot be said to be omniscient and omnipotent. If he had known that the so-called mysterious powerhouse was Jia Lin Adisha who came from afar, he might have smiled bitterly and put these 2 little ones together. Catch the kid and spank him. It is indeed nonsense, and this place is close to the front line. Although according to the probability, it is unlikely to encounter the gods of the white god system here, there is still a certain probability. If you come here to make trouble, aren't you looking for death? Of course, Etisha may have been worried about this and deliberately destroyed the traces. It means that Jia Yan is the black god himself, so he can explore so much. Others may not be able to see so many things even if the white dolphin appears. That's right. In short, Jia Yan was disturbed by the information about the appearance of the mysterious strong man. After running to take a look, he could not get many effective clues. He only knew that the mysterious strong man should be leaning towards his conclusion. The front-line war is probably about to start. How are you handling the internal affairs of your planet? Back on the planet, Jia Yan met the white-haired old general who was beaming with joy. The old general didn't hide much, and said directly, "Sir, things are going well here for us. There are many high-level officials who care about our divine system, so we quickly uncovered a large number of spies from the Xinbei temple. Spies, the evidence is conclusive, many people have been detained, and they can be punished later. That's good. You don't need to put too much energy on this. Get ready for war. The front line is now supported by the 2 planets at the front. I now want you to contact the planets at the rear. Within 3 days, send twice as many troops as the front line. This is a dead order, you must do it even if you can't do it." Hearing that there were twice as many troops as the front line, the old man was shocked. He wanted to say something, but when he raised his head and met Jia Yan's cold gaze, he seemed to remember the identity of the person in front of him, and he suddenly no longer dared to what to say. He nodded and retreated with a shudder in his heart. After having personal contact with Jia Yan several times, he almost forgot that the person in front of him was not a human being. He is God. Although he looked like an ordinary human boy and spoke in an approachable manner, if he really treated him as an ordinary human being, he would not know how to die. To put it bluntly, it is similar to the phrase accompanying a king is like accompanying a tiger. Accompanying a god is no less dangerous than accompanying someone with high authority. It may even be more dangerous, because their life forms are different from yours. It is no exaggeration to regard human life as trivial. Jia Yan watched the old man walk out indifferently, aware of his thoughts, but said nothing. Regardless of whether he would make these ordinary people feel that he was moody, he did not want any of his subordinates to become arrogant. Soon, 3 days passed. During these 3 days, Jia Yan naturally did not stay here all the time. He shuttled between the underworld, the Xinhai star, and the Xiaoxian star. Xinhaizing side has now become the headquarters of the Xinhai god system, so he naturally needs to be in charge. As for the Xiaoxian star, a war is about to break out, and it is also a key terrain location. With Qingling personally conquering it, it is not an exaggeration for him to pay attention to that area. As for the gathering place where the Xinhai forces are dominant, Jia Yan thinks back and finds that it is not an insignificant place. It really doesn't matter, Xinbei Temple will not take action over there. Not only is it very important, but its importance is probably not less than that of the immortal cultivation star. The terrain is not that important. The point is that it is one of the few well-developed areas of the Xinhai Temple. For the Xinbei Temple, this is like a thorn in the side. Not only is it like a thorn in the throat, it will greatly affect their focus in attacking the Xinhai Temple from all directions in the future. You must hold on, and the key point is to hold on without revealing your location as much as possible. Otherwise, that area, although important but not that important, would attract a god from the black god system, and the white god system would send at most one god to it. This is called reciprocity. But if you, the main god of the black god system, black god, rushes over there to start a war in person, the meaning is different. Maybe it's not just one white god type god that's been attracted, maybe several, maybe even all the white god type gods including the white dolphin. Therefore, Jia Yan will rack his brains to downplay his existence and try his best to create the impression that he is just an ordinary god of the black god system. The mysterious master attacks again. While Jia Yan tried his best to cover up his traces, the mysterious master who had helped the Xinhe Temple army attacked again 3 days later. And this time it happened to be an important moment for the armies on several planets to join forces and merge into one army. The Xinbei Temple did not know which spy got it from Shiyuan and learned about this information. It sent 2 venerables and dozens of speedboats to secretly lurk at the location where several rear planets gathered, preparing for an ambush. Unexpectedly, their movements were detected by the secret master. Just as their speedboat had just stopped and before they had time to warm up their weapons and deploy their defense system, the master struck a thunderous blow, hitting all the people in the Xinbei Temple. The army was caught off guard. In a short time, more than half of the warships were lost. Corpses were scattered all over the field, and the entire army had to flee. Jia Yan was shocked. Looking at the battle report, he lamented that if he was a master in this world, then the opponent's ability was too strong, and the timing and strength of his attacks were quite impressive. What's even more amazing is that this guy still has the energy to clean up the traces he left. Even if Jia Yan goes to investigate again, he will probably be unable to find out the details of this person just like last time. A master is a master. It's just a few strokes away, it will be refreshed in 10 minutes. What's even more amazing is that this guy still has the energy to clean up the traces he left. Even if Jia Yan goes to explore again, I'm afraid it will be the same as last time, unable to detect the details of this person. A master is a master, a few words are missing, it will be refreshed in 10 minutes. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2705. Someone is praising Adisha. When Jia Yan praised the mysterious master, Adisha, who was so excited that she did somersaults because she succeeded again, sneezed. She burst into ecstasy. The 2 little gorilla guys here didn't expect that Jia Yan would personally go to deal with the scene over there, otherwise they might not have been trapped by themselves. Of course, they never expected that they would actually help Jia Yan a small favor. It attracted the attention of the senior officials of the Xinbei Temple, but it was not to the level where they suspected the presence of a black god type here. I know the deeds of the strong man on the front line over there. The intelligence and signs coming from over there show that the strongest man is not even half-star level. As for the strong man at the venerable level, he is only a secular force. Send some ordinary strong men can just deal with it in the past. Now our main purpose is on the other side. There is intelligence that people from the Black God sect may break in from there. We must be prepared to launch a full-scale war there. People from the White God department are far away in the vast center of the stars. Countless people are processing the intelligence coming from all over the place, and many of them are exhausted. This is also a helpless matter. Their scene is much larger than the current Xinhe Temple. The end of the arrogance is that more power is needed for prevention and early warning. Even if it is a created world, the starry sky is the starry sky. There are gaps above, below, left and right, making it extremely difficult to defend against. In addition to the abnormal situation in the area controlled by the Xinhe Temple, the events on the Xiaoxian star have attracted the attention of the Xinbei Temple and the White God system behind it. Therefore, the vanguard force that broke into the area controlled by Xinhe Temple was partially destroyed by some venerable masters, so it does not seem so important. Soon, a team that seemed huge, but could only handle a few powerful men at the venerable level set off. Moreover, the area controlled by the Xinbei Temple, which borders the area of the Xinhe Temple, has also seen changes in its troop sources. It has begun to gather and retreat, and is no longer in an aggressive offensive posture. It can be said that this area has undergone subtle changes because of Jia Yan and Edisha. Of course, it is far from enough to contain the power of the entire White God system and let them project part of their strength here, thus causing a sudden reduction in the pressure on the immortal cultivation star. Ho. Just when Jia Yan and the Baishen system were in multi-line indirect collisions and consuming each other, on a planet controlled by the Xinbai temple that no one was paying attention to, there was a young man less than 10 years old. Sweat like rain. He concentrated on wielding the wooden sword weapon in his hand. People coming and going around were extremely shocked and pleased by this young man's persistence. It was obvious that the strength with which this young man chopped at the wooden stake showed that he must be a talented martial arts young man with unlimited potential. As long as he is trained intensively, he might become a unique genius. It's just that if this happened in an area controlled by the Black Gods, it would definitely be a good thing for Jia Yan, but this happened in the hinterland of the Xinbei Temple. What's even more depressing is that when the young man is wielding the wooden sword, his eyes flicker from time to time, recalling a lot of scenes in his mind. I seem, not from this world. I come from the outside world. My predecessor was not human. I am a monster with a knife-like torso. The young man felt dizzy, and a blinding feeling disrupted a large number of his memories. Yes, he is another subordinate of Jia Yan, but this subordinate is more unlucky. After coming to this world, he arrived in the body of a child of several years old, and this area is the sphere of influence of the White God section. As soon as he entered, he was already wrapped in the power of the White God system, and he was confused for more than a year. I am Lord Jia Yan's subordinate. Why, how did I end up near the White Temple? The young man's face looked ugly. He seriously suspected that he was assigned to be near Shirakami and the others because of his bad luck. On this planet, some people claim to have seen miracles from time to time, because people from the White God system simply live in the starry sky not far away, and the possibility of gods appearing is extremely high. The young man was startled, but the wooden sword in his hand became quite sharp because he had restored his past. After a few cuts, the entire wooden pile fell down. My son is indeed a martial arts prodigy. In a few days, my father will send you to the martial arts hall of the Xinbei Temple. There, you may become a future palace guard, and even become a top powerhouse who can meet the Bai Shen family. Behind the young man, his father clapped happily and somewhat proudly. Everyone around was smiling. They witnessed the birth of a talented warrior. No one under the age of 10 can split a wooden stake with a wooden knife. Even if a few of them are heaven-level experts, it will be difficult for them to do so. Shall I go to the White Temple? The young man complained incessantly. He was not afraid of the ordinary god masters of the White Temple, but if one day he really saw a god from the White God department, who was a subordinate of the White Dolphin, he might be exposed. The souls, or the composition of life force, of people in this world are very different from those in the outside world. As outsiders, the White Dolphins will probably notice the difference when they see it. I have been delayed for more than a year in becoming spiritually intelligent. I am afraid that Master Jia Yan and the others are already in full swing of war. I am not strong enough or in position to help Master Jia Yan and the others. In this case, even if I go out, it will be difficult. Is there a place for you? Young people feel sad and don't know what to do. But he rolled his eyes and thought of a way to get the best of both worlds. Although I can't meet people from the White God sect, it doesn't mean that I can't lurk in the White Temple as a spy. As long as I don't perform so well, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to meet people from the White God section. After all, they are in this area. Not everyone can see the so-called gods in the area. Besides, even with a sudden glance, it would be difficult to discover my true identity, right? The young man thought for a moment and nodded directly. The so-called blessings and misfortunes depend on each other. What seems to be a disaster may actually be a good thing. His late awakening has become his biggest trump card. Going deep into the hinterland of the Xinbei Temple, he may be able to find out a lot of information and then pass it on. Yes, this matter seems dangerous, but it is not my real body. It is not like going through fire and water. If it is discovered, at most it will be the death of my body. The impact on the real body of the outside world will be great. I think I am still can survive. The young man nodded, took a deep breath, and made a note. Abba, do you believe in Bai Temple? I want to give it a try. I will make a difference so that you and my mother can live a good life. My child, it's good that you have this intention. Your mother and I will wait. The man in front of the young man smiled happily. Groups of men and women took the young man to the Zinbei temple and underwent testing. The results of the final test for the young martial arts genius who was favored by many people came out. Although he is favored, the Zinbei temple is a force controlled by the gods. What kind of genius has not been seen before? The young man's final results are conclusively classified as a genius, but not at a level that would shock the entire Zinbei temple. However, Zinbei temple still stated that it would spend a lot of money to train this young man, which made the young man's parents cry with joy. Well, the matter of breaking into the Zinbei temple has been initially achieved. My next goal is to establish direct contact with Master Jia Yan and the others. Otherwise, even if I get some information, it will be difficult to convey it to them. That's 0. The young man was accepted by the Zinbei temple, and he was not excited at all. He himself definitely looked down on such a small success, but in the eyes of adults, it showed that this young man's mentality was extremely stable, and he had the general style actually caused the testers of Zinbei temple to look at him differently. Young man, I want to accept you as my direct disciple. Although your talent is not amazing, your character should be good. After a strong person reaches the highest level, what matters more is his own mentality. You with this mentality and a certain amount of talent, maybe you will be included in the list of top experts in the future. I wonder if you would like to become my disciple. The middle-aged man from the Zinbei temple who tested the boy smiled and said words that made the boy's parents ecstatic. The young man's eyes flickered, and after hesitating for a while, he clasped his fists without any sign of joy. I've met Master, thank you Master for taking me in. Okay, very good, the boy is teachable. The middle-aged man has seen many people who kowtow to him, but when he saw such a young man, he was not moved even by accepting him as his disciple, and he was surprised in his heart. He only felt that compared with other geniuses, the young man's talent did not seem to be very strong, but it was still within the category of genius. The key point was his mentality, which was really extremely stable, and his emotions were not written on his face. What a strong man! This puts other talented teenagers to shame. Very good, starting from tomorrow, you can come to my place to learn my martial arts, but I still have business to be busy with. If you want to learn, you can stay with me every morning. While I handle business, I will teach you how to speak and behave, and what do you think of the basics of martial arts? Okay, thank you Master for your attention. The young man's indifferent thoughts suddenly moved in his heart. Isn't this the most convenient way to obtain information about the Zinbei temple by watching the cheap master handling official business? It seems that even if I don't want to be the spy, the people around me are forcing me to be one. Under some circumstances, it might be a good identity. Anyway, I woke up late, so even if I find a chance to sneak up to Lord Jia Yan, I'm afraid it will be difficult to achieve anything. It is better to be the so-called disciple and pass the news to Lord Jia Yan, which can be regarded as a new way to achieve success. This is called another village with hidden flowers and bright flowers. The young man smiled lightly. The only problem is how to establish contact with Mr. Jia Yan. This may be difficult. According to me, this place is in the center of the White God Department's central circle. What can I do under their noses? Method. The young man thought hard and couldn't think of a way, so he had to take it one step at a time. That night, he returned to his home and lay in bed tossing and turning. Because he had just woken up and was trapped inside the enemy's base camp, he couldn't sleep at all. Is there a strange, familiar force nearby? Get up and take a look. The young man suddenly felt a strange power. He stood up suddenly, turned to the window, and looked out at the streets outside. His eyes quickly widened. I saw a few wandering figures on the street, looming, not like ordinary people, but like souls. They are the souls. And from the young man's awakened senses, he could keenly detect that there was some kind of power like yin and yang flowing in the body of the soul thing. This kind of thing has something to do with Master Jia Yan. He was about to get up and meet this weird soul-like object, but he didn't expect a flash of energy in the sky. Humph, isn't this the kind of spirit object from the Black God system? You're so bold to actually reach out here. A few hundred words are missing, you can see it after refreshing the original version in an hour. The only problem is how to establish contact with Mr. Jia Yan. I'm afraid it will be difficult. According to me, everything here is in Bashan. The central circle of the system is in the center, right under their noses. What can I do? The young man thought hard and couldn't think of a way, so he had to take it one step at a time. That night, he returned to his home and lay in bed tossing and turning. Because he had just woken up and was trapped inside the enemy's base camp, he couldn't sleep at all. Is there a strange, familiar force nearby? Get up and take a look. The young man suddenly felt a strange power. He stood up suddenly, turned to the window, and looked out at the streets outside. His eyes quickly widened. I saw a few wandering figures on the street, looming, not like ordinary people, but like souls. They are the souls. And from the young man's awakened senses, he could keenly detect that there was actually some kind of yin-yang power flowing in the body of the soul thing. This kind of thing has something to do with Lord Jia Yan. He was about to get up and to meet this weird soul-like object, but he didn't expect that there was a flash of energy in the sky. Humph, isn't this the kind of spirit object from the Black God system? You're so bold to actually reach out here. A few hundred words are missing, you can see it after refreshing the original version in an hour. The only problem is how to establish contact with Mr. Jia Yan. I'm afraid it will be difficult. According to me, everything here is in Bashan. The central circle of the system is in the center, right under their noses. What can I do? The young man thought hard and couldn't think of a way, so he had to take it one step at a time. That night, he returned to his home and lay in bed tossing and turning. Because he had just woken up and was trapped inside the enemy's base camp, he couldn't sleep at all. Is there a strange, familiar force nearby? Get up and take a look. The young man suddenly felt a strange power, but he stood up suddenly, turned to the window, and looked out at the streets outside. His eyes quickly widened. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2706. He has studied Yin and Yang Tao, and is already a strong man far superior to everyone in this world. He is still very confident in his energy perception and judgment. Boom. There was an explosion in the city, and a large number of people were awakened. Suddenly ghosts howled, children cried at night, and there was chaos. Strong men came one after another to besiege them. No matter how strong the three soul-like creatures were, they could not face a large number of enemies at the same time, so they looked at each other and nodded. In the rage of the powerful people who believed in the White Temple, these three soul-like creatures threw out an object that looked like a small door in the palm of their hand. The object swelled in the wind and turned into a normal-sized black door. It's this trick again. Stop them quickly. The powerful men from the Zinbei temple who arrived all glared angrily, and some of them launched powerful moves without asking. However, after hearing a thunderous noise, these attacks completely fell into place, damaging several nearby houses and causing the death and injury of several innocent people. The pitch-black door gradually disappeared, and the many powerful men who came were filled with grief and anger, and some even roared. Damn it, they escaped again. Every time he comes, he runs away like a rat crossing the street. It's so crazy. Is this trying to contain our strength? But even so, it's useless. They won't be able to promote their ideas elsewhere. Humph, there's no need to complain. If they are really so useless, we won't be angry. Before the above can find a way, please go back and rest. If they show up again next time, they might as well do it as soon as possible. Support. The strong men were filled with indignation, but they were helpless. These soul-like enemies are not weak in strength, and except for the 2 times when they first appeared and caused casualties in frontal battles with them, the rest of the time they were all divided at a touch, wasting all the troops here. It's useless to yell. It's said that these souls are the resurrection of the dead. Are the dead afraid of you scolding them? These are. However, under the ever-changing battle, a certain young man's eyes flickered, as if he saw something that surprised him. He didn't recognize those souls either. But the energy used by the soul and the joint combat skills of the 3 to resist a group of strong men in the final stage gave him a sense of déjà vu. If nothing else, they should be using a simplified version of Yin and Yang Dao. It seems that it is absolutely inseparable from Lord Jia Yan. So, is that so? The so-called resurrector is actually your backup man? No wonder these souls are like this sharp. The young man is convinced. What's more important is that he directly knows how to contact Master Jia Yan. That is to use these souls. The only problem is how to talk to them head-on. Through the previous events, I should know that as long as these souls show up, they are destined to become the focus of attack. Let alone whether I, a child, will be trusted by them, only that they have no when time talks to me, it's difficult to communicate. Now, the young man had to use his brain. As long as there is a goal, it is not difficult for young people to achieve this. It may only take some time. After all, even though he is weak now, his body is still that of a child, but he is also a spiritual master from the outside world. If he really wanted to go from mediocre to genius and become strong quickly, he could still do it easily. After gaining some strength, it would be simple for him to contact those souls. That's right. Although I don't want this body to attract too much attention, I can definitely create a new identity, and I can also use the new identity to infiltrate the enemy's forces. The possibility of contacting the soul in this way is not is it bigger. Let's ignore the young man's plan for now. It can only be said that at this moment in Xiaoxian Star, Jia Yan's General Qingling is still executing Jia Yan's war plan. The entire plan requires extremely skillful execution, and it is necessary to prevent the Xinbei Temple from discovering Qingling's true identity and purpose as much as possible. The people within the Immortal Cultivation Star, whether they are high-level Immortal Cultivation sects, powerful Immortal Cultivators, or even ordinary people, are all under the control and arrangement of Qingling. They have no doubt that this person is talented but has a pitiful background. The Revenge Fairy. Qingling took advantage of her identity as a former princess. She is also a former princess with an astonishingly talented talent. Apart from this, everything about her is as known to the public, completely transparent, and there is not even the slightest secret. To put it bluntly, after taking over the Xing Chen sect, she used her vengeful anger to constantly pressure the sect's followers, not only advancing towards the former country's territory, but also seemingly accidentally at a certain moment, and Chen Bing's territory soldiers from neighboring countries clashed with each other, and then they sent a large number of immortal cultivating troops to continue to attack the neighboring countries. It fits the attitude of a minor who is blinded by hatred and extremely murderous. However, this girl's own strength is astonishing, and she is like a god in her military skills. She is sure to win every battle. Everyone in the world is stunned by her personal strength and commanding talents, and is so amazed that they are dizzy and respected. The entire war was no longer limited to Qingling's territory. During the last border war, Qingling claimed that the neighboring country was a deliberate invasion, so she rose up to resist. Later, she invaded the other country's territory, and it was not just revenge. In the presence of several major national spies at a certain meeting, she told her subordinates, since they wanted to make a sneak attack, instead of guarding against thieves day and night, it would be better to capture the thieves. Slaughter. As soon as these words came out, the whole world was shocked again. Moreover, the purpose of the Xin Chen sect has also changed from the initial revenge for the head of Qingling to strike first to gain strength. The Xin Chen sect's spies and troops, like machines that were invincible in 100 battles, began to infiltrate into a large number of countries, lands of cultivating sects, and various forces on the entire planet in an orderly manner. Many forces are aware of this matter, but they dare not, or have no reason, to target it. Because if you target it and kill it, Qingling will start to do it to you in the name of killing the friendly envoys of the Star Chen section pressure. If resources are not given and the corresponding people are not slaughtered as the price, then the elusive Special Operations Force of the Xin Chen sect may suddenly appear with flying swords and weird invisibility runes. Headquarters, start a massacre. No one knows how talented the current head of Xin Chen sect, Qingling, is, just like no one knows how strong she is now. All we know is that with the help of some extremely ambitious elders and protectors under the Xin Chen sect, the Xin Chen sect at this moment is like a wild beast. It is no longer just attacking one country at first, but is gradually rising. The ambition to annex the entire world and unify the world of immortality. Sir, the leader, we have read the draft for improvement that the leader took out last time. It is indeed what the leader thought. I will wait for these drafts to be approved. Shen, please submit the next regulations quickly. Inside the Xin Chen sect, a young girl with an elegant temperament sat on the throne of the leader, followed by a large number of Xin Chen sect elders and protectors. In the past, they were a little dissatisfied and disrespectful that the position of head of the Xin Chen sect was occupied by an underage girl who was only 15 years old. Now, they were uncharacteristically respectful and respectful. Not to mention those who were dissatisfied, almost all of them were purged, but the current power and reputation of the Xin Chen sect have already surpassed all previous heads. This shows that this girl Qingling is not only qualified for the position of head, she can even be said to be outstanding. Extremely. Only caring about age and how to reach the top is blinding one's eyes. For these powerful immortal cultivators who have the vision of elders and protectors, they have long passed the age of judging people by their appearance. Even the person who told Qingling no longer exists. It can be said that today's Xin Chen sect has completely transformed into Qingling covering the sky with one hand. Inform the several sects in the West Wu Kingdom and the Baitian Kingdom and the Linlan Kingdom who are stubbornly resisting the small sects, and let them surrender within 3 days. Otherwise, the day when our Xin Chen sect defeats their sects and other sects, we will massacre everyone in their sects. Yes. When the subordinates heard the seemingly sweet and lovely girl say such crazy words, they were no longer surprised, but accepted it slightly uncomfortably. The Xin Chen sect dared to rebel against this young leader. Now, either he has become a dead soul under the sword of the leader, or he has been liquidated and imprisoned. Those who are just ignored and do not die are considered good. Therefore, in front of this leader, there is no one who is not careful and cautious, and is completely loyal to the tasks assigned by the leader. Of course, what's more important is that they know very well that the leader's mission almost never involves traveling. Many people are wondering, what kind of natural genius is this girl? Why is it that despite her high strength, her commanding and strategic abilities are far superior to anyone else? Such a mysterious girl with even greater strength is the rising new overlord in the entire world of immortality. In the eyes of many people, the only ones who can stop her are the old overlords. But behind these old overlords, and even unknown to many masters in the world of immortality, there is another earth-shaking force, not even much weaker than Qingling. They are also gradually turning their attention to this sudden appearance. A genius girl who cultivates immortality. They are the forces of the Xinbei Temple. In the Xiaoxian star, Xinbei Temple seem to have no sense of existence at all. But when it comes to the white robe walkers, no one knows about them, and even ordinary people often see them walking. The reason is simple. The Xinbei Temple discovered that the immortal star is different from other planets ruled by immortal cultivators they have seen. The intelligent creatures here from top to bottom, even the lowest level of the people, do not have respect for the gods. Immortal cultivators only believe in themselves and do not believe in the will of the immortal gods. This has long been passed on to the entire world. It is very difficult to spread the will of the gods without bloodshed here. However, the former Xinbei Temple once evaluated that if they wanted to suppress this powerful immortal cultivator with bloody force, it would definitely be a bloody battle. Excluding the gods themselves, even the Xinbei Temple would have to be close to only by going out in force can they quickly suppress the planet, and by then, what will be left to them will be nothing more than a planet in ruins. If they don't want to, they have no choice but to adopt a soft policy, first using ordinary white robe walkers to publicize the benefits of the white god through word of mouth, and then when conditions are ripe, there will be a sudden outbreak, trying to prevent the planet from being devastated. Xinbei Temple is in the arms of the forces. But today, people from the Xinbei Temple who have accumulated a lot of strength have discovered that there is an inexplicable rising force on this planet that seems to be competing for their lives. It's just a few hundred words away. You can see it by subscribing to the official version in an hour. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. The Xin Chen sect dared to rebel against this young leader. Now, either he has become a dead soul under the sword of the leader, or he has been liquidated and imprisoned. Those who are just ignored and do not die are considered good. Therefore, in front of this leader, there is no one who is not careful and cautious, and is completely loyal to the tasks assigned by the leader. Of course, what's more important is that they know very well that the leader's mission almost never involves traveling. Many people are wondering, what kind of natural genius is this girl? Why is it that despite her high strength, her commanding and strategic abilities are far superior to anyone else? Such a mysterious girl with even greater strength is the rising new overlord in the entire world of immortality. In the eyes of many people, the only ones who can stop her are the old overlords. But behind these old overlords, and even unknown to many masters in the world of immortality, there is another earth-shaking force, not even much weaker than Qingling. They are also gradually turning their attention to this sudden appearance. A genius girl who cultivates immortality. They are the forces of the Xinbei Temple. In the Xiaoxian star, Xinbei Temple seem to have no sense of existence at all. But when it comes to those in white robes, no one knows about them. Even ordinary people can see them walking around. The reason is simple. The Xinbei Temple discovered that the immortal star is different from other planets ruled by immortal cultivators they have seen. The intelligent creatures here from top to bottom, even the lowest level of the people, do not have respect for the gods. Immortal cultivators only believe in themselves and do not believe in the will of the immortal gods. This has long been passed on to the entire world. It is very difficult to spread the will of the gods without bloodshed here. However, the former Xinbei Temple once evaluated that if they wanted to suppress this powerful immortal cultivator with bloody force, it would definitely be a bloody battle. Excluding the gods themselves, even the Xinbei Temple would have to be close to only by going out in force can they quickly suppress the planet, and by then, what will be left to them will be nothing more than a planet in ruins. If they don't want to, they have no choice but to adopt a soft policy, first using ordinary white robe walkers to publicize the benefits of the white god through word of mouth, and then when conditions are ripe, there will be a sudden outbreak, trying to prevent the planet from being devastated. Xinbei Temple is in the arms of the forces. But today, people from the Xinbei Temple who have accumulated a lot of strength have discovered that there is a force that has risen inexplicably on this planet. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2707. if intelligence is submitted and a large number of manpower resources are sent from above, so that the other fronts against the Xinhai temple are at a disadvantage, but it turns out to be an unfounded incident, that would be a serious crime. Pulling upwards for support may also lead to the exposure of Xinbei Temple's advance plan on this planet, causing a large number of local immortal cultivators to resist, and eventually turn into a war, which would be more than worth the gain, and they may be severely punished. Therefore, it is impossible for them to directly ask for support. The two soon parted ways. But the strategy for cultivating the immortal star has been roughly made. That is secretly sabotaging Qingling's advancing war. Don't underestimate the namelessness of the Xinbei temple in Xiaoxian star. In fact, these Xinbei temple masters have already spread their footprints in all walks of life, and countless high-level officials from all walks of life have been secretly controlled or bribed by them. Their influence is still full. In a sense, Qingling's intentions for Sima Zhao are known to everyone, but Xinbei Temple's strategy seems to be different from hers, but the ultimate goal is still similar. They all took all the initiative of the immortal cultivation star, and even finally took complete control. Therefore, even if Qingling is not a member of the Xinhai temple, she will still have a head-on confrontation with the people from the Xinbei temple, but it will only be a matter of time. Unlike Qingling's high-profile approach, the people in the Xinbei temple were only in the stage of secret observation and sabotage. After all, they are Xinbei temple, and the immortal cultivators in this world will also know about Xinbei temple. If they dare to show up to develop their power, I am afraid that the forces that are fighting Qingling will unite and destroy this group of outsiders first before discussing how to deal with Xin Chen Gate. This is also the reason why Jia Yan ordered Qingling to use her status as a princess to develop on this planet, because no matter how she is half a native. No matter how crazy or arrogant she will still be fighting among her own people. After Xinbei Temple started to intervene, undercurrents suddenly began to surge on the entire planet. Compared with the previous attempts to keep a low profile, Xin Chen sect seemed to have no more resistance, but it clearly felt that certain aspects were dealing with it. A remnant army of defeated immortal cultivators flew across the endless ocean. That lackey of Xin Chen sect is simply too cruel. Isn't it the sect that surrendered under the Xin Chen sect? Why did they slaughter our sects with such brutality? This time we can only flee overseas. Just wait, I will come back in a short time. The fleeing team was cursing. But in their hearts, everyone knew that they could not come back. This sect is one of the members of the force that firmly resists the Xin Chen sect's army. Because of their resistance, the Xin Chen sect's advancement has slowed down a bit recently. But at the same time, the Xin Chen sect also adopted a targeted strategy as if they had already anticipated the next situation, which was to quickly select a group of surrendered sects along the way and integrate them into their own sphere of influence. Not every sect resists the Xin Chen sect. There are even quite a few sects among them that have risen to join the Xin Chen sect and follow the army to take advantage of the situation. At a certain level, Xin Chen sect allowed this behavior to happen. Although it had strict control, it turned a blind eye. This is called when the water is clear, there will be no fish. After there were many people with bad intentions, Xin Chen sect's elite troops began to reduce casualties significantly, but this also caused the entire world to become chaotic, and the forces under the banner of Xin Chen sect gradually became uncontrollable. The force that was forced to leave was a coalition of 3 or 4 small sections. Their main team was completely wiped out in the previous encounter with the outside team affiliated with Xin Chen sect, so they had to unite into a new force and leave overseas. Preparing to recuperate on a certain island, looking forward to being reborn from the ashes one day. Everyone, you are polite. Suddenly, there was a flashing golden light hovering in front of the small team. The destitute people were so frightened that they fled in despair. After all, these guys are just loose deserters, with no cooperation or determination to fight. Not from the Xin Chen sect? This is Everyone suddenly discovered that the person who appeared in front of them was not under the banner of Scene Chen section. The more important point was that he only acted alone. Who are you? If you are not blocked by Scene Chen sect, please get out of the way. Scene Chen Gate? Is this the sect in the center of the continent? This gate is deep in the center of the continent. Why can you still hear its name here? The person who appeared was dressed in fluttering white clothes, which was obviously very different from the local people's clothing style, but he could not see any obvious signs. It was just that when everyone saw his face, he had a somewhat sacred look, which made him very approachable. You don't even know what Scene Chen sect has been doing recently? Could it be that you haven't paid attention to what's happening on the mainland recently? Exactly, I have made a breakthrough in my skills recently and have been in seclusion on the island ahead for 10 years. 10 years? These murderous coalitions of small forces looked at each other in shock. In the world of cultivating immortals, there are really not many people who have been in seclusion for 10 years without hearing anything about the world, because everyone says it is seclusion, and they say it is also a few years, but if you don't reach certain realms, it is impossible to be in seclusion for such a long time. If you stay in seclusion for 10 years or something like that, you are definitely a boss. I dare to ask, what is your strength? Me? I'm just a senior person. The roaring thunder resounded in the minds of all those with loose power. The strongest among them is just the elementary level of the starry sky. The venerable level seems to be just one level higher than them. But in this world, the venerable level represents the invincible realm, that is, almost invincible in the world. Strength. None of them expected that they could encounter such a master just by running away. Senior, we are the ones being persecuted by the Scene Chen section. If you have an old relationship with the Scene Chen sect, please take action. If you really have the strength of a venerable, we will admit defeat. These people are also considered tough. If the person who comes here is really a respected person, I am afraid that even if they want to struggle or deceive something, they will not be able to resist. Of course, they still had doubts about whether this person was at the venerable level. Any master at the master level will leave a name on the mainland, but the one in front of them doesn't look like the masters they know. Have you any history with the Scene Chen sect? No, I have no friendship with the Scene Chen sect, and of course I have no quarrel with it at all. I wonder what the Scene Chen sect has done? Why are you so afraid of the Scene Chen sect? Senior, these days, the Scene Chen section has been acting in the opposite direction, killing countless lives. Fortunately, you encountered us first. Otherwise, if you didn't know the details of the Scene Chen sect and encountered them rashly, even if you, senior, have the ability to be a venerable person, I'm afraid I'll also suffer a loss. The eyes of the small influencers rolled, and one of them, who was eloquent, opened his mouth to talk, but he couldn't help but add fuel to the fire. What? That Scene Chen sect was led by a woman and did so many tragic things. The seemingly superior man looked extremely ugly. After hearing this, he shouted with indignation. Everyone looked at each other faintly again, and suddenly they seemed to have found a backbone, and they all started wailing miserably. Some people even cried loudly, looking as miserable as they wanted. The actual situation will only be worse than what we said. The evil deeds committed by the Scene Chen sect due to the tyranny of that Qingling can be said to be countless. We are not the only ones who suffered the persecution of the Scene Chen sect on the entire continent. It's too many to describe. Senior, please make the decision for us. These people spoke loudly and described what happened to Scene Chen sect as extremely cruel. The sect and city they attacked were so miserable, and the casualties were extremely huge. The man in white listened calmly, showing anger from time to time. After he listened to everyone's speeches, an extremely sinister anger emerged in his eyes, and then he said calmly, "You don't have to be in a hurry, and there is no need to flee to the sea. Follow me to the mainland." If it is like what you are waiting for, say it, I will make the decision for you. Thank you, Senior. Everyone was extremely happy instantly, and it seemed that everyone was secretly exchanging glances with an air of success. But what they didn't know was that the man in white was hiding something deeper than them. When everyone was smiling, he showed a hidden smile. A similar scene unfolds in various aspects. However, these people in white dress in different styles, and their identities are not all mysterious masters. Some of them took some masters who already existed in the world, but whose life and death are unknown, as their identities, and some of them even killed them directly. He was an imposter, and then changed into this person and appeared in the world. With their help, some sects and forces cultivating immortals began to fight back. Master, it's not good. The battle in Lee State was defeated by the concealment masters of Song State and Lee State. The front-line troops have retreated to the rear. In the main hall of Xin Chen Gate, Qingling soon received the first news of her defeat. There was an uproar in the entire hall. You must know that Xin Chen sect has almost never suffered any defeats since Qingling took charge. Even if there were defeats, they occurred in small-scale battles, which were beyond the control of large-scale strategies. In short, such a large scale, this is the first time for failure. Among the crowd, some elders wanted to say something, and a certain protector even came to his lips and wanted to blame, but suddenly he raised his eyes and saw the cute young man sitting at the head of the table, especially after meeting the girl's calm and beautiful eyes. And immediately shut up. They dare not. Qingling sat calmly, after hearing the news of the defeat. Not only did she not look angry or shocked, but she raised her red lips and showed a slight smile. Sure enough, did they intervene? Others didn't know how these inexplicable defeats occurred, but she knew the reason. It was definitely because the Xinbei temple started to exert its strength. This great star of cultivating immortals is a crucial place for the Xinhei temple, and why not the same for the Xinbei temple? So since Qingling would come to cause trouble, there is no reason why Xinbei temple would not take any action. It's just that the cunning Xinbei temple has probably been hidden all this time. She didn't express her position in the slightest, she just asked her subordinates to describe the situation of the battle. Seeing how calm they all were, many of the elders and protectors below gradually calmed down their impatience and listened to the information respectfully. Soon, these people also frowned. They were all masters who had lived for countless years, and they all had experience in commanding operations. It didn't take long for them to hear that there was something suspicious in this information. According to the normal battle report, there are no problems in the advancement of the entire front, including Qingling's plan, the deployment of troops, and the strategy against the attackers, etc., all of which are as perfect as before. Judging from the past situation, these should all be victories. But they were defeated. On several crucial battlefields, venerable level immortal cultivators appeared. This area also uses the outside world's concept of hierarchy. If it corresponds to the traditional view of immortal cultivators, it is the Mahayana period cultivators. Such powerful beings failed to tell their origins and names in the intelligence. Even if some people found their names and origins, they were all half-truths and half-false historical figures. Master, it seems that some big forces have begun to intervene in our Xin Chen sect's war. An elder frowned and expressed his opinion. Qingling nodded. As expected, it is impossible for us to act like this without a truly powerful force standing by and watching. I just don't know, these are involved by one force, or several major forces. Leader, do you have any opinions? Several elders and guardians did not dare to express their opinions too much, because more words would lead to more mistakes. The leader in front of them was not only powerful. In the recent war, they also saw that this girl like the leader is almost a monster in terms of strategy and vision. So they didn't dare to say anything, just waiting for the leader's opinion. Power. Qingling smiled slightly again. If it was really just some big local forces, that would be it, she wouldn't have any nervousness. But the problem is this really a local force? Which force can suddenly produce 5 or 6 venerable level masters? Impossible. I don't know, but I don't think there is any force that can instantly use several powerful immortal cultivators at the venerable level. Therefore, it is likely that several sects or even external forces are obstructing it. You don't have to be too aggressive. Shocking, it would be strange if these sect forces did not intervene in our actions. Now that they have jumped out, it is a good thing, which shows that they are also afraid of our Xin Chen section. In short, let the war slow down a little for the time being. Let us take a look. The details and methods of these people are up to anyone else. More than 100 words are missing. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe. I don't know, but I think that no force can instantly mobilize several powerful cultivators of the venerable level. Therefore, this is probably a few sections. Even if external forces are interfering with it, you don't have to be too shocked. It would be strange if these sect forces did not interfere with our actions. Now that they have jumped out, it is a good thing, which means that they are also afraid of me, Xin Chenman. In short, let the war slow down for a moment. Let us take a look at the background and methods of these people, and then think about it. More than 100 words missing. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2708. After Qingwan left in fear, Qingling looked at the young man who suddenly appeared next to her. I've met my lord. The young man nodded and did not seize the position of leader. Instead, he sat down in the guest seat and said, I heard what you just said. How about it? Do you need some help from here? Those 3 people have recovered to the level of Venerable's super strength. It is no problem to deal with the top immortal cultivators in the world. It's not necessary for now. Those clowns must be minor characters from the so-called Xinbei temple. I can deal with them. Qingling shook her head confidently. The young man who came was Jia Yan. He was consolidating things at the Xinbei temple's forces today. When nothing happened, he ran here to see Qingling's situation. Hearing this, Jia Yan nodded. He knew very well that none of his subordinates were mediocre, otherwise they would not be able to upgrade to the galaxy level near the Baron Orion arm. Moreover, she is also a well-known cultivation genius. Except for the time when she met Jia Yan and was beaten, she has never submitted to other strong people at other times. It is natural for her to be competitive. Well, if you are besieged by people from the Xinbei temple, you can go to the underworld to shake people. We don't have too few people around us now, and I think there will be more people found soon. Join us and you won't have to worry about our shortage of manpower. I know, thank you for your concern. Jia Yan shook his head. To be honest, when Qingling spoke, he was a little unaccustomed to her ethereal and cold ice fairy appearance, because Jia Yan knew that this was Sis, a male genius creature from the outside world. No one could have imagined that after she came to this world, will become a woman. Of course, Jia Yan won't make fun of anything, because Zizi and the others are not human beings at all in the outside world. The image they play according to their identity and status is like this, and they only have this appearance in their memory. Let them learn to be men. The appearance will make them confused. Women should be women, Jia Yan thought silently in his heart, as long as he doesn't go out and become a sissy in the future. Sir, here is the spiritual tea we got from the Song dynasty when we seized the territory. Please drink it. Please forgive me for not treating guests well. Qingling suddenly spoke in a more gentle and feminine manner, and even made tea herself, which made Jia Yan's hair stand on end. After chatting briefly about the recent situation and asking her to go to the underworld to find Edish's next strategic plan, he directly tore apart the underworld space and left. Scared. Scared. Qingling, on the other hand, looked at the afterglow of the crack where Jia Yan left and smiled lightly. Female, her eyes were a little cold, and then things became weird. Have these two little guys not returned to their temples yet? It's really serious to run away from home. Jia Yan returned to the underworld, and then rushed to the palace of hell to go to Edisha, but was told that Edisha and Jia Lin had not returned yet. He couldn't help but be a little surprised. These two little brats really want to run away from home. Did they get embarrassed by beating their butts in public last time? Thinking about it, although the children are young, they still have some face issues, especially since they are the gods of the two major temples. How can they be happy when they are so embarrassed in front of their subordinates? But Edisha probably doesn't have such a personality, or in other words, if she really has a heart close to that of an ordinary child, Jia Yan will be happy. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, while Jia Yan was thinking about it, the big bell in the Palace of Hell rang automatically. All the soul workers in the Palace of Hell were frightened. Some people looked at it, but they felt a little weird. I saw papers falling from the big bell that was ringing, floating in the air, and seemed to have charm. I see, this little guy still didn't give up. He went over and picked up this note and gave it to me. Yes. The servant obeyed and went to the big clock, picked up the paper, didn't dare to look at it, and handed it directly to Jia Yan. Jia Yan's Hang was about to take a look, and a smile appeared on his lips. He saw flames igniting on his fingertips, and the paper turned into flames, which dispersed in the wind in a moment. You should take care of the King of Hell's palace here first. Your palace master will return soon. Before Jia Yan left, he gave instructions to the bewildered souls. Editha manages the Palace of Hell quite well, but the palace master has not returned for a long time. These souls are also the transformation of former living beings. It is inevitable that they will have various thoughts. If they come back and are ignored, she will be devastated. After all, Jia Yan will be very disappointed if Edissa manages to mess up her interpersonal relationships. After raising his voice, Jia Yan did not care so much and directly tore apart the underworld space and entered the area controlled by the Xinhe temple where he had been staying for several days. This place is different from the mystery and ancient customs of the Xiaoxian star. It is a country of advanced technology. However, the individual strength is obviously weaker than that of the Xiaoxian star. If the two fight, I am afraid that the planets and countries in this area will be destroyed like a sudden storm. The so-called civilization, in fact, sometimes depends on whether you are technologically advanced or advanced and civilized. Once your cultivation civilization has reached a certain level, it will be more civilized than you. Many people even think that no matter how advanced your cultivation civilization is, it is just like drinking blood. This is absolutely wrong, because when civilization reaches a certain level, it will pursue the binding force of moral and behavioral norms, otherwise it will not be able to develop. Therefore, Xiaoxianxing seems to be backward, but in fact it is not. In terms of the quality of the people and personal behavior in principle, it is not much worse than this technological area. I have made up my mind, you don't need to persuade me anymore. When Jia Yan traveled through space and arrived at the capital of the country where he was on the previous planet, he suddenly heard the words of the white-haired old man not far away, and there were also earnest words of comfort beside him. He listened carefully and found it interesting. The white-haired old man, with the help of energy given by Jia Yan, regained all his strength, and even had the potential to reach a higher level. However, after he was ready to sweep away the surrounding countries as Jia Yan said, when he led the space fleet to attack the Xinbei temple army, he was comforted by everyone on the grounds that he was old. Among these people, some are trying every means to seize power, some are really good to the old man, and some sound like chess pieces planted by Xinbei temple. Interesting, I didn't expect that last time I used the power of Thunder Court to sweep away many forces on this planet, there were still people who dared to jump out. This is called profit-making. There will definitely be a lot of villains who are not afraid of death, right? There is often no shortage of people in the world who would sacrifice their lives for their own selfish interests. For their own benefit, some people are not afraid of sacrificing their own life or death, let alone the lives and deaths of others. Of course, what's more important is that these escapees think that they are really gone, otherwise they would not dare to say those words to the white-haired old man. Everyone was urging the old general. At this time, the old general also had a severe headache and felt even more melancholy. How could he not know that there must be people with malicious intentions among the people present, but at the same time it was difficult for him to tell them apart. More importantly, many of the people present were his former subordinates or relatives and friends. He couldn't do it, and he couldn't do it, because if he did, the whole army would disperse. Among the people who seemed to be comforting the old man in a profound and righteous way, several people looked at each other frequently. The eyes of several old and cunning people narrowed slightly because they could see that the old general's will had been shaken and they did not know what to do. You may have been brave back then, but now you are old and confused, so you have nothing to fear. Although he has regained his force, his heart and old mentality cannot be restored, and his ears are weak, so there is nothing to be afraid of. Keep up the good work, his conversation has changed, and it will soon become. An eloquent person was about to speak with a lotus tongue and continued to speak some words that made it difficult to distinguish right from wrong. However, his eyes rolled, and soon he was shocked, his hair stood on end, and he was speechless. What's wrong? The person next to him looked up following his gaze, and soon seemed to be under a restraining spell, and became dumbfounded and speechless. Not only these two people, but also several vigilantes discovered the abnormal situation, and then they kept their mouths shut, and even frequently used their eyes to signal the other people who were talking nonsense, as if to tell them to stop talking. But the other few people didn't think as fast as them. Some people even think that these guys are so unable to say anything more that they have nothing to say. It seems that they are more powerful as lobbyists. And if the old man listens to their words and relaxes some rights, it means that their faction or force will gain more status and rights, which is a great achievement. These fools. Court death. Those who didn't dare to speak just felt dumbfounded. Of course, even so, they didn't dare to show any emotions. Finally, the old man felt something was wrong. He looked around and suddenly saw a young man floating silently in the sky not far from their office. This young man was wearing a white Shensu costume today. He looked energetic and majestic, and one could tell by looking at him that he was no ordinary young man. Grown-ups. The old man remained silent and shouted quickly, and the man flew out of the window, bowed his head in the air and bowed. And this shout made all the lobbyists in the room react. Those who had no eyesight, who had not seen the young man, felt their scalps numb. When they looked up, they were stunned when they saw the young man's figure. Trembling all over. They knew that such a powerful person might have heard what they had just done, and might have been thinking about how to deal with them. Compared to the old man who is still thinking about his old relationship, this young man is completely an outsider and has no old acquaintance with them at all. He may kill them all in one fell swoop with earth-shattering power in the next moment. Don't doubt this person's ability and coercion. After all, he is a big shot who single-handedly solved the capitulation faction on this planet. Not to mention killing people like crazy, but just saying that he once casually let the heads of so many guilty people roll around, which is enough to show his mind and determination. The old general did not belong to the same group of people at all. Sir, Your Majesty, I'll wait, I'll just see that the old general is getting old. Yes, sir, we just feel that, the old general needs more capable personnel, otherwise, he may not be able to handle the current war affairs. Several people noticed the approaching young man, with a cold look in their eyes, and they immediately defended themselves in silence. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe. There are still a few hundred words left, and the official version will be refreshed in an hour, of course, What's more important is that these escapees treat themselves as if they are really gone, otherwise they would not dare to say those words to the white-haired old man. Come. Everyone was urging the old general. At this time, the old general also had a severe headache and felt even more melancholy. How could he not know that there must be people with malicious intentions among the people present, but at the same time it was difficult for him to tell them apart. More importantly, many of the people present were his former subordinates, or relatives, and friends. He couldn't do it, and he couldn't do it, because if he did, the whole army would disperse. Among the people who seemed to be comforting the old man in a profound and righteous way, several people looked at each other frequently. The eyes of several old and cunning people narrowed slightly because they could see that the old general's will had been shaken and they did not know what to do. You may have been brave back then, but now you are old and confused, so you have nothing to fear. Although he has regained his force, his heart and old mentality cannot be restored, and his ears are weak, so there is nothing to be afraid of. Keep up the good work, his conversation has changed, and it will soon become. An eloquent person was about to speak with a lotus tongue and continued to speak some words that made it difficult to distinguish right from wrong. However, his eyes rolled, and soon he was shocked, his hair stood on end, and he was speechless. What's wrong? The person next to him looked up following his gaze, and soon seemed to be under a restraining spell, and became dumbfounded and speechless. Not only these two people, but also several vigilantes discovered the abnormal situation, and then they kept their mouths shut, and even frequently used their eyes to signal the other people who were talking nonsense, as if to tell them to stop talking. But the other few people didn't think as fast as them. Some people even think that these guys are so unable to say anything more that they have nothing to say. It seems that they are more powerful as lobbyists. And if the old man listens to their words and releases some rights, it means that their faction or force will gain more status and rights. That will be a great achievement. These fools. Court death. Those who didn't dare to speak just felt dumbfounded. Of course, even so, they didn't dare to show any emotions. Finally, the old man felt something was wrong. He looked around and suddenly saw a young man floating silently in the sky not far from their office. This young man was wearing a white Shensu costume today. He looked energetic and majestic, and one could tell by looking at him that he was no ordinary young man. Grown-ups. The old man remained silent and shouted quickly, and the man flew out of the window, bowed his head in the air and bowed. And this shout made all the lobbyists in the room react. Those who had no eyesight, who had not seen the young man, felt their scalps numb. When they looked up, they were stunned when they saw the young man's figure. Trembling all over. They know that such a strong person may have already reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2709. The battle that took place in the temporary office was one-sided, or it would not be an exaggeration to say it was a massacre. But what seemed like a small-scale bloody incident had an extremely far-reaching impact, and it quickly spread to several major planets in the entire war preparation area. The old general is nothing, the key is the attitude shown by the mysterious strongman who is suspected to be from the Black Temple of Confidence to everyone. Iron-blooded, merciless. Suddenly, everyone knew what to do. Even the forces and families that had the top members of their family killed were immediately silent, as if nothing had happened, and they did not dare to make any counterattacks as in the past. But all of this may be just a flame hidden under the paper ball. Maybe one day they will find the opportunity to explode and destroy them in one fell swoop. After all, these people still have great energy in all aspects. Of course, for Jia Yan, any conspiracy and conspiracy are nothing more than a trivial fight in the face of absolute strength. The fundamental reason for his action here was to divert the White God Department's attention and try to buy as much preparation time for the immortal cultivation star. Of course, even when he was unable to attack with all his strength, he also held back. He wanted to be silent, but also wanted to be earth-shattering. These seemingly contradictory points required him to strike a good balance, otherwise he would end up with a slap in the face. That would be embarrassing. "Sir, what happened before?" I said. "No explanation is needed. I only gave you the opportunity this time. If it doesn't happen next time, you don't need to explain anything." Arriving at the normal office, Jia Yan waved his hand to interrupt the old general's words. He had heard similar words too many times, and it was nothing more than explaining to himself the reasons and psychological factors for tolerating those people. He knew this well, and there was no need to explain it to himself. He gave him a chance to show that he could generally accept the old general's style. If he broke through his own limits, Jia Yan had just included this group of people, including the old general. "Kill them all." The old general stopped what he was about to say. He had a clear conscience and had no intention of collaborating with those people. It was just that he had to deal with it himself. There might be some flaws because he couldn't kill with his hands. Now it seems that all these young people have been killed by him, but there is also the factor of Jia Yan giving orders. Presumably those families and forces cannot blame him. After chatting with Jia Yan about the progress of preparations for the war and the problems encountered in reality, the old man frequently paid attention to Jia Yan. Finally he asked with some hesitation, "Sir, who are you?" "I asked the local Xinhe temple forces. According to them, they don't seem to know your existence, but the power of the black god you use is extremely authentic. If anyone else raised such objections, it would be like seeking death." But since it was brought up by the old general, Jia Yan still didn't mind revealing some of the information. He said frankly, "If the Xinhe forces in your area are interested, they will know that far to the west, there is the Xinhe temple's sphere of influence established after the black god awakened. I am from there." The old general's face suddenly turned pale with shock. He stared at Jia Yan with dumbfounded eyes. Then he nodded with a wry smile and said, "So that's it? Your Excellency is a master from my god's side? I'm just a little surprised. Although the development of our area is pretty good, it's still lonely overseas. There are thousands of miles between us and my god. I have heard more than once that there are big moves in this Xinhe temple. I tried to establish contact with my god, but they all ended in failure. I never thought that my god would be the first. They noticed the lonely people like me and sent an adult to rescue them." He regretted deeply in his heart. If he had known that the current central area of the black god system would pay attention to this insignificant place, he would not have allowed the crazy development of the power of the Xinbei temple, which almost led to a tragedy. At the same time, he looked deeply at the young man in front of him again with slight surprise. I saw a young man in black clothes and a black robe, surrounded by a mysterious black aura that made people dare not look directly. It turns out that the place where the young man came is the headquarters of the Black God Department. So has he seen the Black God himself? It's normal to have seen him before, because this young man is so outstanding. Okay, you don't have to think too much, just know that I come from far away. If the people here, including you, perform well, the Black God will grant you status and resources. Yes, my subordinates will definitely work hard and die. The old general's gray beard trembled and he immediately expressed his loyalty. But he didn't miss it either. Jia Yan mentioned the Black God in his words without using the word sir or using the word my God. This once again aroused the old man's suspicion. Since he is a member of the Black God system, shouldn't he look up to him when he mentions the supreme creation God in the God system? Why is there no respect at all? But he didn't say much. Maybe that's the custom there. He would never have thought that Jia Yan himself was the Black God, and it always felt weird that he respected himself. Jia Yan did not continue to talk about the war with this old general who seemed to have rich experience, but in fact, because he was getting older, even if his body recovered, his mind became as suspicious as an old man, and his actions were wavering. He knew that on this planet, there probably wasn't any subordinate worthy of his trust. Either they were not loyal enough, or they were incompetent like the old general, and the old general was already taller among the dwarfs. Only by yourself. Fortunately, things are still doable. Jia Yan found an office chair, sat down, turned on the air conditioner, and turned on the TV, enjoying the high-tech life that was rare in this world. While he was watching the TV media reports on the planet's unrest scandal, he was thinking about how to fight in this frontier place. It is obvious that the people and high-level officials in this area are lagging behind because of the overdeveloped technology. The luxurious life makes them greedy for pleasure. As long as they can maintain their current life, even if they turn to the white god system, can talk. Therefore, there are not many senior officials who can be trusted, and their combat power is not very strong. The advantage here is that it has a large number of advanced warships, and the automation coverage of soldiers is quite wide. Allowing soldiers to remotely control fighter planes to fight on the front line will certainly not cause a comprehensive fear of war. Of course, relying on these alone is far from enough to compete with Xinbei Temple, because if the area of Xinhei Temple is developed, the area controlled by the nearby Xinbei Temple will naturally not be too bad. As far as I know, the Xinbei Temple next door occupies a vast area. The advanced place is more advanced than this area. The reason is very simple. The Xinbei Temple force is the dominant force in this world no matter what. Their resource exchange ability is stronger. The Xinhei Temple's sphere of influence has long been destroyed. It has been extremely difficult to develop independently after being blocked for many years, so how can we be more developed than them? There is a difference in strength. If the military forces near the Xinbei Temple use all their strength, this area will be wiped out in minutes. This is also the reason why there are so many surrender factions. But how can I fight a battle I'm not sure about? Jia Yan clicked on his personal brain and clicked on the star map above, which quickly displayed an extremely detailed virtual screen of nearby star maps. This is a military-grade star map. Jia Yan clicked on several major planets around him, and saw only black dots in the major cities on the planet. Images appeared in each black area from time to time, but then quickly disappeared, and so on again and again. These black spots that emerged were none other than that he had arranged for the Palace of Hell to send experts through the gates of the underworld at all times to cause trouble on these planets a few days ago. Because the gate to the underworld is too convenient, it often only takes a dozen top experts to make an entire area fly and be in a state of chaos. The number of masters who can be restrained is 10 times or 100 times more. It seems that even the army has been restrained a lot recently. It seems that my strategic ability is still young, so I don't need to rely on Edissa. Jia Yan was a little proud. We're not afraid of you, little brat, running away from home. Before Edisha appeared, or when Edisha was not around, Jia Yan still did well. Although his strategic ability cannot be said to be completely on the table, he is definitely not an idiot. And a few days ago, I sent 2 of the top soul masters around Edisha to break into a planet that is extremely close to the center of the white god system. The answer will be known in the next 2 days. I hope they will not die too many people. Jia Yan's ability to employ people is actually outstanding. It is not only displayed today, but has been demonstrated in places such as Biostar. So to this day, he has full confidence in himself in this regard. The team of experts should be safe and sound, and there won't be any incidents like when Edisha comes back and finds out that she has lost a few capable people and makes her cry. After thinking about each incident, Jia Yan let out a sigh of relief. Speaking of which, Jia Yan really learned a lot after coming to this world. In the past, he used to act with brute force, because his talent and strength had always been extremely overwhelming, and he could often achieve amazing results with his vigorous energy. But in this new world, he and the White Dolphin started a mental and resourceful battle in addition to combat power. This gradually gave him a more diversified thinking ability, and the first thought in his mind when encountering an incident was no longer direct use of force. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Although it is good to use your brain, it also changed the direction and caused Jia Yan to no longer be so strong. Once something like personality changes, it cannot be reversed. The Xinhe Temple Alliance army attacked again, but this time, the scale and number are not much different from before. Suddenly, Jia Yan received a communication from the old general. The old man in the communication looked strange, not shocked, but a little confused. In the area controlled by the Xinhe Temple, their tactical analysis skills are quite good. Even if their intelligence is not that high, they only need to analyze the data model through their brains, and they can analyze the absolute advantage in military strength this time. As for the Xinbei Temple, a large number of troops will be dispatched. But the truth is no. As a veteran, the old man would naturally think of conspiracies and traps. But Jia Yan smiled slightly. The decrease in the number of incoming troops showed that his strategy of harassing the opponent's rear was effective. Jia Yan stood up and said calmly, "Don't doubt anything. This is the entire main force of the enemy's army this time. Get ready to fight. You and other planetary troops will also fight in this battle. Don't tell me, you have been preparing for so many days, not ready yet. Well, this planet is ready and ready to go at any time." The old general nodded energetically and accepted the order to go to war. He didn't know how Jia Yan did it, but since the adult said it, he must have his reasons. Moreover, the lessons learned from the past were right in front of him. If he dared to disobey this person again, he knew very well that he would be the one who died next. So he didn't dare to ask questions. Jia Yan himself stood up, looked at the sky, then took a step and flew away at lightning speed. The figure suddenly disappeared in mid-air, and he was no longer aware of how many kilometers away he was in an instant. Below the planet, there were many people staring at his figure, many with complicated eyes. Because this young man is in charge of one planet alone, more than that, he may have intimidated several surrounding planets controlled by Xinhe Temple. If he hadn't appeared, there would have been about 2 or 3 planets that had recently turned against them on a large scale. The deterrent power of the strong is evident. Leave and send a signal to Xinbei Temple. A certain figure under the earth just observed Jia Yan leaving the figure and was about to send information to the outside world. When he sent out his own signal transmitter, it showed that the signal was disconnected. His face changed wildly, and he couldn't help but break open the wall of the house where he was, and rushed towards the outside world. But his reaction was already too late, and he saw another electric figure flying out quickly, slashing down with a sword light silently, and the man's head fell to the ground. It's just a few hundred words away, you can see it after refreshing the original version in an hour. He didn't know how Jia Yan did it, but since this adult said it, he must have his reasons. Moreover, the lessons learned from the past were right in front of him. If he dared to disobey this person again, he knew very well that he would be the one who died next. So he didn't dare to ask questions. Jia Yan himself stood up, looked at the sky, then took a step and flew away at lightning speed. The figure suddenly disappeared in mid-air, and he was no longer aware of how many kilometers away he was in an instant. Under this planet, there are many people staring at his figure, many people have complicated eyes. Because this young man is in charge of one planet alone, more than that, he may have intimidated several surrounding planets controlled by Xinhe Temple. If he hadn't appeared, there would have been about 2 or 3 planets that had recently turned against them on a large scale. The deterrent power of the strong is evident. Leave and send a signal to Xinbei Temple. A certain figure under the earth just observed Jia Yan leaving the figure and was about to send information to the outside world. When he sent out his own signal transmitter, it showed that the signal was disconnected. His face changed wildly, and he couldn't help but break open the wall of the house where he was, and rushed towards the outside world. But his reaction was already too late, and he saw another lightning figure flying quickly. The error-free chapters of Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky will continue to be updated in Zinchuhig. There are no advertisements on the site. Please also bookmark and recommend Zinchuhig. If you like Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky, please collect it. The new book Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky has the fastest update speed in Hig. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2710. Haha, these people are so stupid. Laughter appeared among the torn ruins, and a young girl shuttled among the large cracked metal battleships. Another shaky girl followed closely behind her, wearing an oxygen mask on her face. She frowned from time to time to look at the little girl flying freely in front of her, feeling a little unwilling. They are Edisha and Jiolin, and they came to stir up trouble in this area again today. Edisha, fly slower, they are not really stupid. Be careful where someone hides to catch you off guard. Edisha shook her head with a smile. No, otherwise I would have taken action just now. Even if someone was hiding, I couldn't hit Edisha. Jiolin, you can't catch me, can I slow down? Jiolin was immediately furious. I can't catch up with you. You fly, no matter how fast you fly, I will chase you. She gritted her teeth, but it was actually Edisha who hit the spot. The two little guys who ran away from home have been living a happy life recently. Not only are they wandering around in the depths of the underworld as overlords, but because of the bonus of the underworld, they are not afraid of danger at all and frequently open the door to the real world. Something is happening here. It's just that Edisha was the only one who took action, because she was the only one who was close to the Lord's top combat power. As a native of the world, Jiolin could only eat dust from behind and had to be careful. She was naturally unhappy. Edisha is obviously used to Jiolin's unhappiness. Anyway, she can just pretend and turn a deaf ear. The two are in love with each other and seem to be very close, but they often get jealous over trivial matters and compete over trivial matters. But strength is not irrelevant. In this world where strength is respected, Edisha is almost invincible, but Jiolin is only an ordinary high-level heaven-level strongman. Even a starry-level person can defeat her. She really needs some improvement. Edisha, let's go practice later. You teach me the practice skills, and I have to improve my strength quickly. Jiolin said in a low voice. Okay, Edisha will teach you. Edisha is a very good teacher. Editha was still smiling, but her moving eyes suddenly turned, and her small hand shot out, and in the blink of an eye, she killed a star-level powerhouse hidden in the debris from the air. They still want to attack us. Jiolin, do you think they are bad? Well, it's very bad, but today this fleet was finally destroyed in our hands. We have been chasing it for 10 days. They just know that we are going to kill them, so just kill them for us, but they still run away, which is very bad. Edisha spoke nonsense, and Jiolin echoed her. In short, the two of them were pursuing and destroying the Zinbei temple fleet. As early as 10 days ago, after they had just planned to run away from home in the underworld, they opened the door to the real world and found that this area was controlled by the Zinhei temple. They wanted to go to those planets to enjoy high-tech life. Unexpectedly, this area was extremely turbulent, and the Shinbei temple was about to attack. So, the two little guys put together, since they can play at any time anyway, why not do something earth-shattering and let Jia Yan and his subordinates who think they are children see it? In the next 10 days, the mysterious strongmen who frightened the Zinbei Temple Alliance army began to elusive guerrilla warfare. After they opened the door to the underworld, a large number of warships were destroyed from the inside. Even if they escaped, they would not be able to escape. Sky. This area of the front army soon became chaotic, and the progress of advancing into the area controlled by Xinhe Temple also slowed down. Finally, on the 10th day, the 100-ship division that was targeted by Edisha and the two men was easily destroyed like a small boat in the wind and rain. Like beasts inspecting trophies, Edisha and Jialin searched through the ruins of numerous battleships to see if any fish had slipped through the net. This division was so miserable. The strongest one was a venerable, but he couldn't resist Edisha's seemingly weak fists. After a few punches, the venerable was beaten to pulp by Edisha. It is estimated that none of the enemies regarded them as children. As they were retreating steadily, they did not realize that the entire escape route had completely entered into Edisha's plan. The route became more and more difficult to follow, and it was difficult for reinforcements to intervene in the surrounding areas. In the end, in this area in the difficult to break through place surrounded by comets, Edisha found an opportunity to annihilate them all. Damn! What kind of devils are you two? Suddenly, after Edisha killed the previous star sky level, an unkempt star sky level being flew out from behind the ruins and was seriously injured by the explosion. He was extremely haggard and miserable, staring at the little star with sorrowful eyes. Figure of child. When they first discovered this figure, none of them believed that such a little kid was actually the culprit that caused the near-total destruction of their entire army. But after the little brat showed off her earth-shattering fists, these strong men immediately had to believe that such a little thing was actually the strong man who caused the mysterious damage and explosion of their battleship. But after finally seeing their true faces, something seemed to block the signal in this area, and even the battle scenes here could not be transmitted. Until now, the army was destroyed, and I am afraid no one outside knew about it. The entire army, the frightened mysterious master actually had the face of a child. This star-level expert knew that he could no longer hide his figure, so he simply rushed out from behind the bunker, roaring with a completely unbalanced mentality. Be crazy before you die. Edisha seemed to already know that this starry sky level was hidden. She looked at him calmly, and then looked back at Jialin. Jialin, this man is a master of the first level of the starry sky, but he is injured. He may be as powerful as you. Do you want you to hit him? Edisha is protecting you next to you, so you won't get hurt? Good. Jialin gritted her teeth and immediately flew out. She knew that Edisha was creating opportunities for herself to fight. Otherwise, this junior master who jumped out of the starry sky would not even be able to speak, and would be killed by Edisha with lightning speed. Damn it, I want you dead. The starry sky level was already crazy, but now seeing how the sky level high-level little girl dared to attack him, he suddenly became even more angry. He casually grabbed a piece of battleship iron plate and used it as a weapon, and rushed towards her like crazy without risking his life. Jialin was still a little nervous, and a trace of black energy quickly overflowed from her fist, and then she used all her strength to wrap the energy around her fist. Facing the imminent metal plate, she pushed her fist out unhurriedly. Boom! Earth-shattering explosions resounded throughout the starry sky, and the explosions continued to explode. The two sides fought together and quickly ended up in a draw. But unlike the enemy, who became more and more frightened the more they fought, Jialin, who was a little unconfident at the beginning of the war, became more energetic the more she fought, and her fighting spirit became higher and higher. She has learned the yin and yang Tao that is enough to fight across levels, and she has also received Jia Yan's personal energy injection to cleanse the body and change the marrow. It is normal for her combat power to reach the starry sky level. She has been hidden under the brilliance of Aditya in the past, and she also I have never been able to get any practical opportunities, so my self-confidence is not that strong. Today, Edisha deliberately asked her to take the initiative to fight, which immediately made the girl find her confidence. When the Starry Sky Junior Master was fighting with Jialin, the iron plate was punched into two pieces by his fist. He was frightened and his eyes were filled with despair. Faced with the coming energy of the fist, no more resistance. These two little brats were actually the culprits that caused the entire space fleet to attach great importance to it and even stop its offensive posture. No one would believe it if they told it. He finally understood that these two little things, even if they were really children, were probably not ordinary existences. Perhaps, even the word human had nothing to do with them. God. When he thought of this word, the man's eyes were startled. But at the last moment of his life, through the edge of his fist, he only saw the mysterious little girl of 5 or 6 years old, opening the snack bag and eating. After the bitterness, he could not get the answer, so he just took it with him. Reluctantly, I fell into eternal darkness. Hey, I won the battle, how about it? Adisha, am I also very powerful? Jialin defeated a master who was one level above her, and her self-confidence was stronger than ever. But when she looked back, good guy, little Edisha seemed to be disdainful and had already taken out the snacks and started to nibble on them. Jialin's face immediately darkened and her eyes were unkind. Humph, if you don't praise me, give me back the snacks. I brought this from the temple before, so I won't give it to you. Adisha was startled, and quickly put on a smile. Jialin, you are so good. The boxing technique just now is a yin and yang technique, right? Your brother will definitely praise you when he sees it, he, it's a good meal. Adisha ate your snacks without knowing it, I'm sorry. Jialin was obviously not satisfied with Adisha's words, but it was hard to say anything else, not to mention that she often ate Adisha's snacks secretly. We need to clean up the traces here so that others don't know that we did it and become unsung heroes. Okay, I'll help this time too. The two of them were so confused that they didn't think they had done anything special. They cleaned up the traces of the battle around them. Even they themselves couldn't tell how they killed this partial division fleet. Then he looked left and right, picking up missing pieces and filling in the gaps. After finding no clues, Edisha tore open the crack in the underworld and quietly crawled into the crack together, returning to their hometown base camp. About half an hour later, a figure arrived in a trance. The young man got out of the cracked space, and then fixed his eyes on the processed battleship wreckage and the surrounding battle scenes. He frowned. Is this what the so-called mysterious strong man did? He was able to kill an entire partial division fleet of the Xinbei Alliance army, and there were venerable level beings in it. Could it be that this strong man dispatched? He is also a master who has reached the pinnacle of the venerable. It's a pity that the other party was very careful and destroyed all the traces that could be seen. It's not even easy for me to go back and reason. Forget it, I won't waste this energy. In short, I know that they are enemies of the Xinbei Temple Alliance. That's fine, it's beneficial to me, and I might have a chance to see you in the future. The young man was about to tear open the space again and leave, but he saw a large starry sky in the distance covering the sky, as if an extremely terrifying demon was about to arrive. Strong man? Are you here to hunt down the so-called mysterious strong man? Tisk tisk, it's better to choose the right day than against the sun, since this mysterious strong man's course of action is beneficial to me, then I will help him deal with these troubles. The young man remained motionless, looking at the haze that seemed to be filled with ferocious flames, with a look of disdain on his face, and just waited in place. Young man, are you the mysterious and powerful man who is causing trouble? The approaching dark clouds were so overwhelming that there was no trace of anyone who looked like a soldier from the Xinbei temple. The earth-shattering sound came from inside the dark clouds, and an energy that did not belong to the ordinary venerable level existence was surging crazily. The black smoke seemed like a stormy sea, beating against the starry sky, vaguely trying to swallow up the tiny young man. The young man seemed stunned and motionless, but actually looking at his expression, you could tell that he was smiling and saying nothing, as if he was sarcastic about something. If you want to survive, answer my question, young man. I was worried that it was someone from the White God family, but it turns out it's not. It's okay if it's not, then. Suddenly, The young man, a few hundred words are missing. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe for the official version, and it will refresh in an hour. The young man got out of the cracked space, and then his eyes were fixed on the processed battleship wreckage and the surrounding battle scenes. He frowned. Is this what the so-called mysterious strong man did? He was able to kill an entire partial division fleet of the Xinbei Alliance army, and there were venerable level beings in it. Could it be that this strong man dispatched? He is also a master who has reached the pinnacle of the venerable. It's a pity that the other party was very careful and destroyed all the traces that could be seen. It's not even easy for me to trace back and reason. Forget it, I won't waste this energy. I can. Anyway, I know them. As long as they are enemies of the Xinbei Temple Alliance, it will be beneficial to me, and there may be a chance to see them in the future. The young man was about to tear open the space again and leave, but he saw a large starry sky in the distance covering the sky, as if an extremely terrifying demon was about to arrive. Strong man? Are you here to hunt down the so-called mysterious strong man? Tisk tisk, it's better to choose the right day than against the sun. Since this mysterious strong man's course of action is beneficial to me, then I will help him deal with these troubles. The young man remained motionless, looking at the haze that seemed to be filled with ferocious flames, with a look of disdain on his face, and just waited in place. Young man, are you the mysterious and powerful man who is causing trouble? The approaching dark clouds were simply overwhelming, and there was no trace of anyone who looked like a soldier from the Xinbei temple. The earth-shattering voice came from inside the dark cloud, a sound that did not belong to ordinary venerable people. The young man remained motionless, looking at the haze that seemed to be filled with ferocious flames, with a look of disdain on his face, and just waited in place. Young man, you are the mysterious one who is causing trouble. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2711. This person was not sure about the existence of the White God system, but after seeing a deity of the White God system in person some time ago, and feeling the invincibility that could only belong to a god, he was sure that the White God system existed. They exist, and they worship the people of the White God system extremely. The master of the White God department at that time told him personally that as long as he worked hard enough, he might be able to join their God department one day. In other words, become a god. He enjoyed it so much that he never thought that the powerful White God type spirit he met was fundamentally different from him. At this time, he was ordered to investigate the unexpected situation of the war in this area. After crossing the void, he thought that it should be easy to solve the blocked fleet incident here. After all, he also belongs to the category of the invincible realm in the Interstellar. Even if he cannot after killing the enemy, it must be easy to escape. But the young man in front of me. This cultivator of black energy felt such shocking and terrifying pressure that he felt the blood all over his body began to surge, his bones began to decompose, and he could not even speak. Who are you? It's only strange that you shouldn't have joined the dispute at the level of gods. Young men lament, lamenting for the weak. As a weak person, his fate is tragic. Under the invisible hand of the strong, he can only be regarded as a concept of numbers. In many cases, it is okay for the weak not to get involved in events at the level of the strong. Once he gets involved, at the level of a strong person, he may end up with no ashes left. For example, this guy in front of me. Boom. There was an earth-shattering sound, and the black shadow figure who had been in fierce flames just now turned into dust. Under Jia Yan's casual blow, even the most basic particles could not exist and disappeared with the wind. I hope you can be reborn in the underworld. If you can, maybe you will know who I am. Jia Yan shook his head. He also knows that this matter is not that easy. Nowadays, the duties of the underworld are not perfect, and not everyone has a chance to be reborn. In addition, even if a strong person returns to the underworld and becomes a soul, his memory will be damaged, and his strength will be lost. Therefore, the underworld is the strength of the underworld is the same as before life. Being strong in life does not mean that you will have the same strength in the underworld. In the same way, being weak in life does not mean that you will have no cultivation talent in the underworld. Everything is like random, so even if when a dead man reaches the underworld, it is difficult for him to recall the memory of his enemy in life. Even if he does, he will probably completely eliminate any thoughts of revenge after knowing that he is the Black God himself. That mysterious strong man is interesting. Jia Yan looked back at the emptied space behind him, and without thinking too much, he stepped forward again with a smile. He came to observe the front-line war, and he needed to show some of the combat power of the Black Temple strongman. Of course, now that he has killed this strong man here, he must put this matter into his own body, otherwise he will be doing it for that strong man. The hidden mysterious strongman attracts hatred and may harm the opponent. Therefore, the strength displayed must at least be at the peak of the venerable. Of course, it is impossible to go higher than that. That is the realm of the gods. After a while, the fleet commanders who came to fight on the front line one after another felt like they were struck by thunder. Looking at the terrifying black power owner who was calm, destroying battleships with one move and reaching the peak of his strength, they felt trembling all over. It is said that the master of Xinhe Temple who is trying to pacify the dissidents in the rear is too strong, isn't it? At least a middle to high level venerable, or even directly to the peak invincible realm, we don't have such a master. Where is the wandering immortal cultivator sent earlier? Isn't he also a master who is almost invincible? Let him come back quickly. Don't worry about the mysterious strong man. We have sent the message, but his communicator seems to be damaged. The possibility of this kind of thing should be that the immortal cultivator is dead. Dead? How is it possible? He may be an almost invincible strong man. Why can someone still kill him? Is it this master of the Xinhe Temple who did it? The commanders in the Xinbei Temple Alliance army took a deep breath after receiving the news that the late master of cultivating immortals might be dead. At the same time, they stared blankly at the young master showing terrifying strength in the starry sky, feeling a little shocked. Maybe their intelligence systems were wrong. This outstanding and powerful man from the Xinhe Temple is not at all a junior or middle-level venerable person as they thought. He should be an existence at the peak of a venerable person. It is more likely that he is the highest level of a venerable person, that is, the pinnacle of peaks. He was all major races are called invincible, and they are also the beings closest to gods. Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain why the immortal cultivation master they sent suddenly disappeared, to the extent that he could not even be contacted through the communicator. Let some of the great masters of the venerable level in our army go into battle. Even if he is an invincible master, there are also several powerful men of the intermediate level of the venerable in our army. If we work together, we can still achieve a delay for a period of time. This battle, we are defeated, we can escape as much as we can, go back and ask for reinforcements to fight again. The commander-in-chief of the Xinbei Temple Alliance army was a middle-aged man in white robes with a calm moral integrity. However, in front of the fact that hundreds of warships were destroyed one by young men using unparalleled moves, his expression changed again and again. Finally, he gave up his pride and prepared to retain the strength of the entire army and use escape tactics. 36 strategies are the best ones. The surrounding enemies seemed to be on the verge of a formidable enemy, but our morale was greatly boosted. Jia Yan, who was in the center of the battle circle, was a little bored. He needs to preserve a certain amount of strength, otherwise it is easy to attract the real masters of the white god system, and eventually lure the gods into a war, which may even lead to the white dolphins coming in person. This way he can divert the pressure from the cultivating star, but prevent the final war from breaking out in advance. The opposite of the original intention. Therefore, although he was disdainful of the seemingly fierce war in front of him, he could not show it. Instead, he adopted tactics that were almost in line with the Venerable's peak strength. He defeated the enemy steadily and was unable to swallow them whole in one go. Down. The outside world doesn't see it that way. They only think that the peak master who suddenly appeared is too strong. After fighting for a while, Jia Yan had killed more than half of the battleship wreckage everywhere. Not long after, from hundreds of battleships, there were almost a dozen Venerable-class people with bitter faces flying out. This was already all the powerful Venerable-level people in the entire enemy fleet. They flew in complaining, and even though we had the numerical advantage, they seemed to have little confidence and got entangled with Jia Yan. Although he scorned these seemingly strong men, Jia Yan still retained his strength and showed almost the peak combat power of the Venerable, and he was evenly matched with them. The main force of the enemy's fleet gradually fled at this time, and soon left the main scene of the war. Although the Xinhe Temple Alliance army behind it had won a complete victory, they did not organize troops to continue to pursue it. I don't know if they knew. The art of war in which a poor enemy should not pursue is simply a matter of cowardice. In this battle of strong men, Jia Yan faced a dozen masters of the supreme level alone. Even though a supreme master from the Black Temple flew out of the battleship and wanted to help, Jia Yan sternly refused. It seemed that he had the strength. He is confident and seems to have retained his strength. However, the battle was not as simple as he made it appear. Jia Yan's fists continued to hit, and more than a dozen enemy sages gathered into a battle formation. They struggled to hold on, but their defense was not directly broken. Seeing that the large troops in the rear were almost escaping, the middle-level and peak Venerable man in front of him shouted coldly, "Retreat!" More than a dozen great masters retreated in an orderly manner, maintaining their defense against Jia Yan, while also silently deterring the masters from the Xinhe Temple Alliance army who were surrounded by them. Those experts who believe in the Black Temple are actually eager to give it a try, but are too afraid to do so. The long years of peace have made them lose their blood. Jia Yan was so happy that he stopped fighting. This was the most correct way to attract the enemy's attention without letting the enemy think too highly of himself. Keep a low profile and bide your time. But he didn't let the enemy escape like this. After his eyes flickered for a moment, Jia Yan suddenly reached out his hand and grabbed this person from the enemy's strong formation due to a small oversight during the formation of the enemy. Out. Everyone was shocked, and some of the powerful warriors in the enemy army were desperate to form a team to rescue him. However, Jia Yan just sneered and did not treat this person as a hostage or a chess piece to attract the enemy. He held his hand with one hand. Collar, he clenched his fist with his other hand, and his cold fist smashed the man into pieces. Back off, back off. Stop taking revenge. The look of the Venerable, middle-level, and peak leader of the enemy army changed several times, and he gritted his teeth and made the most correct decision. The Venerable masters beside him, although they all had resentment in their eyes, obeyed the orders and continued to escape in great pain, taking advantage of the time left by Jia Yan to kill the mid-level Venerable master. Further range. If they stay, they will be completely wiped out, because the young master who single-handedly dealt with a dozen of them is too strong. You kill me and others, and I will definitely take revenge after that. These Venerable level experts are all old comrades in the Xinbe Temple Alliance army. Although they may not belong to the same country or even the same planet, they are strong men who have joined forces in the unique way of the Xinbe Temple. They must have carried out more than just this war mission, and maybe they were old friends with extremely friendly comrades in arms in the past, and now they naturally share the same hatred. I'm waiting for you to come. Jia Yan stretched out his hand to stop the other lords from the Xinhe Temple Alliance army who were trying to catch up at this moment, appearing to turn a deaf ear to the threat. And those of our respectable level around him stopped as soon as he stopped him, as if even if Jia Yan didn't stop them, they were just pretending. In contrast, the judgment is clear. Your strength is astonishing, I admire you. Yes, we thought this battle would be bloody, but we didn't expect that this gentleman is more powerful than we imagined. When the Zinbei temple fleet and the powerful men fled in the blink of an eye, the masters at the side beside them changed their aristocratic manner when they were posing for the media to take pictures, and looked at Jia Yan with lowered eyebrows and lowered eyes. He spoke with great admiration. "This is nothing, but you are quite strong, but you seem to be lacking in fighting ability. You will have to work harder in the future." Jia Yan looked at the surrounding venerables with some reproach. Wherever he looked, every strong man lowered his head, feeling a little embarrassed. Their own family members knew about their own affairs, and they knew whether they had taken action just now, and whether they had fought with all their strength. However, they did not expect that the strong young man who was entangled with more than a dozen venerable level people would actually observe it. Sir, you have a sharp eye. We were indeed conserving our strength just now. However, this is not because we are greedy for life and fear of death, but because you don't know. The strength of the Zinbei Temple Alliance army is definitely more than this. Not to mention how strong their military force is in the rear. Just say that on this battlefield, according to our intelligence, there is still a supreme master who obeys their orders. The being who is suspected to have reached the invincible realm has not shown up, so we cannot go all out. You must have a certain amount of strength to prevent that strong man from making a bold attack and being attacked by him secretly. You may not care, but we can easily suffer numerous casualties. An eloquent person seemed to praise Jia Yan, but silently explained why they did not dare to try their best before. After that, other venerables around him nodded tactfully. "That's true. In fact, even your excellency, according to me, is not necessarily afraid of the immortal cultivator, but if he is ambushed and attacked, it's not like your excellency. We have been waiting nearby just to prevent this from happening. I am afraid that the man refused to show up and was restrained by us, so we were unable to take action and had to leave." "Maybe. Yes, this guy is talking nonsense, saying that the so-called invincible immortal cultivators were frightened by them, so they did not make a sneak attack on Jia Yan." In an instant, a lot of credit was taken away by this group of venerable level warriors who had never taken action. Perhaps some local media and newspapers would later say that although Jia Yan had driven away the enemy, the key lies in these other venerable level warriors. Protected the master Jia Yan, otherwise the outcome of the war would not be known, so the fruits of the entire victory belong to everyone. Jia Yan burst out laughing. "Do these guys really just rely on their words? I wonder if the so-called invincible immortal cultivator you are talking about can use his master's skills to activate the black smoke in the starry sky and cover the entire starry sky. A few hundred words are missing. Come to Cheateon.com and subscribe and it will be refreshed within an hour." A lot of the credit was instantly taken away by this group of venerables who had never made a move. Maybe there will be media and newspapers from all over the country, saying that although Jia Yan the enemy was driven away, but the key is that these other powerful masters protected Jia Yan. Otherwise, the outcome of the war is still unknown, so the fruits of the entire victory belong to everyone. Jia Yan burst out laughing. "Do these guys really just rely on their words? I wonder if the so-called invincible immortal cultivator you are talking about can use his master's skills to activate the black smoke in the starry sky and cover the entire starry sky. It's just a few hundred words away. Come to Cheateon.com and subscribe and it will be refreshed in an hour."